I know you need to stay your ass on the porcelain. This is going to require a little finesse, and given your prior reputation as a hothead, you'll be the first one to fuck it up.
Hey, I wrote the fucking book on finesse, okay? You just wait for me to wipe my ass, Angel. I'm coming with you. Angel, get me a fucking podcast, Jack. I don't know. I mean, this is what we were saying.
That whole scene is just... isn't there some... Like, Garrett Hedlund's in the shower for the whole
Correct.
scene, right?
That's
like,
right.
While he's, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is...
just a lot of energy.
I was saying...
a lot of testosterone.
Oh my God, yes. So much testosterone.
The quotes page for this movie is almost as long as the entire script. And I was saying this is a movie that doesn't necessarily have like an obvious iconic line to pull from, but also every line in the movie is demented, either as written or the way the actor chose to deliver it. But the toilet scene feels like the thing I want to represent the most. This didn't work as well to butcher for the opening, but this is the other exchange I just want to repeat from the toilet scene.
Sure.
Angel comes in. I gotta ask you a question. Me and Sophie did a lot of making up last night. Seems like I got a little rust on my tools down there. Opens his bathrobe.
Yeah.
Then Wahlberg says, "Whoa. Ask the cockologist in the shower."
He calls Garrett Hedlund a cockologist. I guess I don't even... Is it supposed to be like a dig at him? And then Garrett Hedlund pokes his head out and he's like, yeah, it's a rug bird or whatever. Like he actually has a take.
And he's like, oh, thank God. I thought my luck ran out.
Right. It's insane. Well, because it's like there's the ongoing thing of like, does Hedlund get laid a lot? Like that is a point of discussion across the movie. But then they also throw a lot of homophobic jokes his way. When he dies, they get in some homophobic digs on his death. Not even deathbed, his death ground.
Death ground.
His dying moments.
Right. So it's like the cockologist thing. Are they like saying he's the one who gets laid the most, or is it a dig on him being obsessed with dicks?
Or he sees a lot of penises.
Right.
I don't know. I the other thing is just, isn't the whole point that these guys were raised by a nice lady?
Yes.
They do not act like they were raised by a nice lady.
Well, they do. To be fair, they do talk about that right up top because he's like,
they do.
He's like, sounds like she did a terrible job. He's like, they're saints compared to what they would have been.
Right, they look like congressmen.
Sure.
I think is what they say.
Yeah, they look like congressmen.
Like, I like that. I like that idea. Can I say, I think the most potent thing in this movie is whenever they envision Fionnuala Flanagan there with them. Like, I think that is a device the movie should have repeated more. It feels...
Maybe had it a couple more times. Like, use it like sort of every half hour or whatever.
Because you do walk out of this movie or walk away from this movie, or in my case, roll out of bed and over to the desk from this movie, asking a lot of questions about her, right? Like, she is such a presence that looms so large. You're trying to find the connective tissue between these four guys and what that upbringing was like on a day-to-day basis and all of that. And you get, obviously, so little of her in the beginning that every time... And it's only really those two scenes, right?
She is good, though.
She's very good.
She's definitely, you're like, well, I could see how she raised these four brothers. But
there's the dinner scene and the end scene, and both of those times I'm like, I'm starting to get it, you know?
Right. By the way, my wife... Tessa
Humble brag.
Has never watched Lost, humble brag, and we're watching Lost now, and so it was just very cool to see Faraday's mother.
Pivotal. What's her? Eloise Faraday.
Eloise Hawking, right?
Eloise Hawking, right?
Right, but then she takes Faraday's the married name. That's, I mean, our friend Joe Robinson, who hosts the Storm podcast, which is recapping Lost. I've wedged myself in there as the go-to Desmond guest whenever there's a Desmond-specific episode.
The Desmonds,
because
right?
The Desmond arc is my fucking favorite.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
I've rewatched just the Desmond arc 2 times in the last year, and her entrance is incredible. That first scene where she's like making small talk with him, and then she does the pin turn to like, "You're not supposed to buy the ring."
Yeah,
is the moment where it feels like, how fucking big is this show? Where you suddenly went like, is this show gonna do everything?
Yeah.
We're messing with like space and time and fate now.
You're not supposed to buy the ring. Oh man, it's creepy when she delivers that
It's
line.
great.
Like, who is she?
She's a great actor. She is great in this movie. And yeah, it's a failing that she's not in it more. But this, of course, is a podcast about filmographies. It's called Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
Mm-hmm. I'm David.
And it's about directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce baby. This is a mini-series on the films of John Singleton. It's called Pods in the Cast.
Mm-hmm.
Our guest today, a dear friend of the show, one of the oldest friends of the show, one of the oldest supporters of the show, been far too long since he's been on the show, from Astronomy Club, from the Black Man Can't Jump in Hollywood podcast, Jonathan Braylock.
Thank you for having me.
The fourth brother of Blank Check.
It's been, long time fan. Goes way back. Way back to when this podcast was just a joke.
Yep. It was a bit we could not escape.
Yes.
But then we escaped. Yeah.
I remember you coming up to me at the UCB training center where we would both like work out with our groups, our comedy groups and whatever.
Yeah, we
but
pump
also
iron with them.
Yeah, we get swole with our mod teams. But where we used to record the show, and you were like, "Hey, I like your Star Wars podcast," and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. You're like, no one listens to this.
Right.
And I was like, no, I do.
Right, I was like, I actually like your podcast. Because you guys had just had Keegan-Michael Key on.
Yeah.
Which was like such a big episode so early on in your run. I was like, your podcast is like really good. And you were like, thanks, yours too. And I was like, no.
Yeah, right. No,
No.
I do enjoy every time a list comes out and both of our podcasts are on it. It feels nice. It's just like
always makes me happy.
We also we started at like exactly the same time.
Yeah.
And the shows have different bents, but I do feel like we both have tried to toe the same line between like trying to find some actual insight and be funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to, have us be lumped in together in a good way. But no, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, just that it all culminates in the Four Brothers.
Finally. Yeah. I feel like we sent you a list a while ago because we had the moment of just like, oh, we haven't had Gerard, James, or John on in too long. So we sent both of you guys, I feel like, the list for like 7 months out in advance.
Yeah, it was like Musker and Clements,
right?
And, all of the stuff we were doing.
So Gerard and James both took Musker and Clements at the beginning of the year, but you very quickly put your chips down for like Four Brothers is wild. I would really like to talk about Four Brothers. I think about that movie, and then you had been pushing hard for Carpenter during March Madness. So when he won, I was like, look, we haven't booked any of the Carpenters. Do you want a Carpenter instead of Four Brothers? And you were like, no, I want to stay on Four Brothers.
Yes.
Four Brothers. This is a big one. This is a wild one.
In a weird
there's
way.
a lot here.
Yeah. I mean, can you explain your history with it and the decision-making process of staying on Four Brothers?
Yeah. I mean, well, I wanted to do a movie that like I felt like there are movies that people talk about all the time. Right.
Yes.
And so John Carpenter has a lot of those films, and John Singleton has a lot of those films too. But Four Brothers is one of those ones where it's just like, this is a blockbuster movie that I'm sure like a lot of people haven't seen, like, because it's very specific. It's like if you didn't like Mark Wahlberg in the early aughts, or you're not really into like action movies, you probably didn't catch this one. It
was also like an August blockbuster. And I feel like you have more substantive movies that come out in August now. I feel like they pack every single weekend, but it used to be the first weekend of August is the last weekend you can release a major film.
Right.
And then the final couple of weekends in August, you have movies that open to like 15 or 20 and are decent, like third base hits, maybe.
Yes, that's right.
Right? Like, and this was that corridor of just like, oh yeah, like last weekend of August, I'll go see a Mark Wahlberg movie.
Right.
With like three guys who Hollywood is continuing to test out as movie stars.
Exactly. And I think that's what did it for me. Honestly, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to do this podcast, this movie, was because of Chiwetel Ejiofor's performance.
Yeah.
I think like this is the movie where like he really stood out to me as like I was like, oh, this dude's gonna be huge. And he was, because his presence in this movie, this character is nothing really. This character is just like the most basic villain.
On paper, there's nothing there. Yeah,
it's like he wears a big jacket. He's mean. He's
mean. He's
I'm
sexist.
done describing the character to you, right?
Well, but he's mean in a specific way. He's mean where he makes people do crazy shit. Yeah,
he's
eat
petty.
pasta off the floor.
Yeah,
sit with the kids' table. Like,
yeah.
Well,
power moves. Honestly,
let's talk Chiwetel for a sec, because this is in the middle of Chiwetel just like I guess it's just like whatever you've got, he'll do it. He's just suddenly like he's in, his breakout in movies is Dirty Pretty Things, right? And then he's like in Love Actually for a
hot second. He's the cuckold. No.
Right, yeah, essentially. Right. In a very age-appropriate marriage to Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley was like 14.
Let's also
anyway,
call out he's like the only black actor to have a primary role in a Woody Allen movie, period.
Is that, I guess that's because he's Melinda and Melinda. He's in the dramatic part of Melinda and Melinda, right?
But he is the male lead of that half of the movie, and I cannot think of any other black actor in his entire fucking 87 movie filmography with a role of substance.
And then this year, and also he's in She Hate Me That Year, but this year, Four Brothers, the villain. Serenity, the villain. He's incredible in Serenity. Yeah. Kinky Boots, which didn't he get a Golden Globe nomination for that?
Yes, and a BAFTA, I think. Yeah. He was nominated for a Golden Globe. Yes, not a BAFTA, but a Golden Globe.
And next year, it's Inside Man and Children of Men,
right?
The two men movies, the two, in both of which he's like, he's what, the fourth or fifth or sixth, and just pops in and is great. You're just like, more of this guy. Like, why is this guy playing the third cop? Like, why, I mean,
Year after that, Talk to Me, an American Gangster.
He's really good in Talk to Me.
So good. Right. That's him finally getting to play like a co-lead in an American movie. Because it had been like British, he gets to be above the title. America, he's like fifth.
Even all the way to like Salt, right?
Yeah.
He's still just kind of like playing one of the guys in that. I know he's like kind of the third lead in that. He's like chasing Salt. Who is Salt? Of course, the question on everyone's lips.
Sure,
right. But I think it's it's partly that Hollywood is racist and doesn't know how to find roles for this guy. But I think he also is just like I'll do it. I'll do whatever. Like I like to be in movies, right? Like he's not a particularly egotistical actor, and he is in these scenes where he doesn't. I mean, this movie he kind of takes over his scenes, but in a lot of these movies he doesn't. He does what the movie asks.
He's a character actor.
Who's hot,
but he's hot, and he also is good at being a leading man. He's not one of those guys.
Can do that too.
Yeah, he has the charisma and he has the gravitas and the star power to be a leading man, but he is a character actor. And the thing is, this is the time in which the black actors who got to be the leads of movies were more personality actors and they're bigger stars. Like, because as great as Denzel is, still kind of a personality actor, right? You have Will Smith, and then it was like the comedy stars. It was the Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Chris Tucker.
Yeah,
it was like those were the black actors who got to be the lead of a movie, and everybody else, if you were a black character actor, you probably like 3, 4. You get to play a cop here or there, like that kind of thing.
No, and I mean, I've been invoking you a lot throughout this miniseries, and Black Men Can't Jump in Hollywood in general, but you guys always sort of talk about how much more willing Hollywood is to make a musician with zero acting experience a lead than to sort of like cultivate a career of an actual black actor, like a trained black actor.
Right.
And it feels like that
has Four Brothers.
Right. It started shifting in like the last 10 years. It's a thing I kind of keep thinking about watching all these Singleton movies of like, it does feel like there is this wave of like, and most of them, by the way, like have to have come out of the toniest acting schools in the world, right? Where you have like Winston Duke and Lupita from Yale, and you have like Jonathan Majors from Juilliard and Corey Hawkins too. But there's like finally this beginning of like classically trained young black leads starting to like carry movies. But in this era, yes, it's like Chiwetel's got the and two of the four brothers are played by musicians. And one of them, this is Singleton's third time being like, he's a movie star, he's a movie star, he's a movie star. And Andre Benjamin is someone where it felt like Hollywood was demanding him to be a movie star. Like he had been a little reticent to start acting, and everyone was like, you should be a movie star, right?
Right.
This is one of those movies where, you cue this movie up. The cast, Finola Flanagan gets shot, obviously. Sure. The cast list starts rolling. It's a long time before there's a name you don't recognize. That is the fun.
That's
the
crazy.
Like, exactly. It is. You're like, oh my god, like everyone is in this.
I was also doing the math on this. I mean, like Terrence Howard gets his Oscar nom this following year, right? Because this Hustle and Flow and this movie come out within a month of each other.
Correct. This is the year that he's in this Hustle and Flow, Crash.
Yes.
And gets a lot of those sort of critic awards where they're bundling all of it together. Or
people,
yes.
the question was, will Terrence Howard get 2 nominations or 1? And he only gets the 1. Taraji was sort of like on the outside list for supporting actress. Then she finally gets her nomination a couple years after this. Wahlberg gets his nomination the year after this, or 2 years after this.
With The Departed.
Right, and then Chiwetel has to wait a little bit longer, but it's like there are 4 people who are within like 5 or 6 years of getting their first nomination in this movie.
Right. Tyrese is still waiting.
And then, Sofia Vergara with it's just like
Yes. Yeah. You're like, wait, Sofia Vergara, and then it's like Josh Charles. Wait, Josh Charles playing another corrupt cop like a year after SWAT.
Yeah.
Finola Flanagan, Barry Shabaka Henley. We love to see him. Anytime he rolls in.
Yeah.
Could have done with more of him. Adam Beach has a scene in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I think people want to work with John Singleton still. I do think that's part of it. Like because this movie, it's a pretty straightforward, well, plot-wise, it's not totally straight, but it's it's an August movie.
Yes.
But, Singleton's given it that weight, probably, right? Oh, Singleton's making it? I
think
want to work
so.
with John
and
Singleton.
He's a good actor's director.
Yeah. I like this movie. This movie's kind of good. I don't know. It's sort of ridiculous. It's kind of so stupid, but it kind of rules.
I don't know. I get a little frustrated watching it because I feel like it should be better. And I can't figure out what doesn't quite work. Like, it is entertaining and fun, but you're like, this thing should rip. On paper, this should be the ultimate guilty pleasure,
It's got like 50 plots, that which is sort of a problem. Like for a 110-minute movie, it feels like a mini series level of shit going on. Bray, Bray, I assume you like Four Brothers. I assume that is, or is it just Chiwetel that you wanted to swing in for? That's what's drawing you here.
Yeah, I mean, the reason first of all, the cast is definitely a part of the reason why I love this movie, because it's one of those movies that sticks with you because the cast is so great, and like everyone is committed to what this film is, which is a lot of testosterone, just like the idea of like, well, but then this idea of like this idea of family, and even though it is for sure like a somewhat of a toxic family, it's still a family, and so there is something really endearing about it. It's like, I also grew up in Jersey, and then grew up at a time where people had this kind of like friendly animosity where you're just like making fun of each other. Like, that's how this guy loves you, that they're constantly ragging on you, and so that like that part of it, obviously there's like a coolness factor of these guys seemingly can get away with anything, which is amazing. They're constantly just holding people at gunpoint in public places all the time and never getting caught. Not one person ever accuses them to the cops, which is like, cool, I guess that's just Detroit.
Like interrupts a basketball game.
Like a high school basketball game. This paints a real picture of Detroit as a fully lawless society.
Yeah, truly lawless.
That first scene where Howard goes to talk to them in the backyard, I guess after the funeral, And he's kind of like, hey, you guys aren't going to do that Four Brothers thing, right? Like, he's not just like, hey, don't try to take the law into your own hands. He's like, don't do whatever weird action movie thing you're thinking about doing now.
I sure wouldn't want there to be
a series of set pieces.
Right, exactly. Armed sieges on like residential streets, essentially. Like that would really fuck up my week.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just like it's just a movie that I feel like works. It's one of those. It's like you have premises like this all the time, or just simple kind of like, oh, this person got murdered, like somewhat of a revenge tale. I'm gonna find this, my loved one's killer, and we're gonna get revenge. But rarely, I feel like, do you care about the characters? And I personally, like, I cared about these four brothers. I cared about the mom, even though you only saw her for a brief bit. Like, the way that they craft the story is like, it just sticks with you, and it's very enjoyable, and it has like some cool scenes, like that scene, the scene at the end, and like on the ice, like it does look cool, like it, like Chiwetel in his chinchilla fur coat, like I don't know, it looks awesome.
Snow crime is great,
Yeah,
I love when crime's happening in snowy places. Isn't it good?
I always like cold crime, and I always find it more visually arresting. Like this movie is so good, even just from the very beginning.
From the beginning.
Right. Just sort of like the iced windshields, and I feel like the verisimilitude of their breath being visible in every scene. Like, this is a movie where you can tell the actors are actually cold in a way that gives it a good energy. Right. Yeah.
It's clearly like February in Michigan. Like, it's just clearly, all of Detroit. Detroit does not look lush, obviously, but like it looks very real. Like, it looks like it's winter in Detroit, in mid-2000s Detroit.
I believe it was mostly shot in Toronto.
They did a lot in Toronto.
They got the specific landmark sort of shit in Detroit. Yeah.
Detroit and Toronto, they're like across the pond from each other anyway. It's okay. You can. I'll allow it in this case.
I think the sequence, the car chase in the snow, is like it's so great. It really just makes it like so much more exciting.
Yeah, and Singleton's good at car chases, and he's just done a whole movie of that. I do think like the watching the like fifth consecutive big gun violence scene made me just kind of realize like, oh, it is just more difficult to make gun action cinematically compelling,
right? The more of it you're gonna do in a movie, right, it's gonna start to feel a little samey.
It gets a little samey, right? But it's got, I mean, this movie has an undeniable energy to it. I mean, the origins of this thing are weird, and we've talked about this, but this is a movie like, Singleton is almost the opposite of what we say in the introduction for this podcast, right? Where he somehow gets this like very small blank check to make his debut film exactly the way he wants. And then that it makes such a seismic like impact that he gets to make like 4 John Singleton movies and define what a John Singleton movie is at the beginning of his career. And then he goes like, okay, I've like kind of hit a wall. I don't want to be pigeonholed. Let me show them I can do like studio action. And he makes 2 movies, Shaft and Too Fast, Too Furious, that are both hits, but are kind of negatively received and like leave a bad taste in people's mouth. Like, he's this weird case of a guy where his biggest financial hits set his career back. And I found this Entertainment Weekly article that I remembered from when this movie was coming out about how like 2005 was the summer of Singleton, where it's like he's back. He's made a new action movie, but it's a little bit closer to the tone of his early films. It's in like a smaller, more personal scale. He's working with actors he likes, but also that he was like the driving force behind Hustle and Flow. He found Craig Brewer. He wanted to get that movie made. No one wanted to make it. So he mortgaged his house and financed it largely himself, and then went to Sundance and was like the spokesperson for the movie. And that movie being a hit was seen as much as a comeback for Singleton as it was the emergence of like a new director. And he got the biggest deal in the history of Sundance at that point in time.
That was a huge Sundance, bidding war movie, right? Like $16 million.
Right. Well, this was the crazy thing, though. everyone was like, bidding around that amount. It was like 7.5. Now it's 8, 8.59. And Paramount said, we'll give you 9 plus Singleton. We will give you a 2-picture deal to produce 2 more movies at budgets similar to this with your fee baked into it. So it was like $16 million to Singleton, essentially.
Right. And wait, so are Black Snake Moan and what's the other one? Illegal Tender?
No,
that's
in 2011, Singleton sued Paramount for $20 million for breach of contract.
Oh, wow. So even Black Snake Moan wasn't part of that deal, maybe.
I believe it wasn't. It went to Paramount, but I think it was its own thing.
That was
somehow.
Like an indie movie. I don't know.
Right. It was supposed to be him sort of finding new guys and making small movies of that size and whatever. And I think also this movie was already happening. Hustle and Flow shot the same time as this movie. So Paramount releases 2 big Singleton movies within a month of each other. He's doing so much press for both of them. I think he was like, this is my home studio. I'll be able to foster a new generation of young filmmakers here, and I'll be able to make my movies here. And then he doesn't make another movie until Abduction, and Paramount claimed that nullified his contract because he went and made another movie with another studio, and that was against the first look deal. And Singleton was like,
"You're so fucking
right." Singleton was like, "My first look deal ran out. Like I took Abduction because that had finally run out, and you guys hadn't used me for 6 years."
Our researchers have run down here. We got to go through this. Like all the movies he was attached to in the 2000s that never happened. Like there's so many, because there's the biggest one is Luke Cage, right? That's the Columbia post Spider-Man is like, we want to do a Luke Cage movie with John Singleton. And that's like John Singleton's big passion project.
With
that
Tyrese.
never happens. With Tyrese obviously being the
he
sort of
wanted
obvious.
to do it, I feel like, right after Spider-Man, and it was like gaining some steam. And then when Spider-Man 2 was huge, they were like, okay, now Sony really wants to do Marvel movies. This time period is the closest that movie comes to getting made.
Right. He apparently almost made a Sinbad the Sailor movie that eventually got kicked to Rob Cohen starring Keanu Reeves. That never happened. He was gonna do Fear and Respect, the video game gangster movie with Snoop Dogg, which was also going to be a video game that also never got released, right?
That also got pretty fucking far along. He signed up for these 2 movies within a month of each other. And I think this one went first because it was smaller, it was easier to get mounted, but he was like deep in development and pre-production on Fear and Respect.
He was going to do something called Convoy, some kind of Afghan war movie, people driving trucks through Afghanistan. I don't know. He was going to do Without Remorse, which finally came out, on Amazon this year.
Tom Clancy's Without Remorse.
Yeah.
Right. He was going to do a movie potentially titled Tulia, Texas, starring Halle Berry, about a small town in Texas where all the black people were arrested and railroaded for drug dealing.
Yeah, I mean, now this is the stuff he almost did after Five Brothers in that period.
Right. The A-Team is the other big one. That's the other. The A-Team was, I think, initially his, and then Joe Carnahan.
I forgot how far along he had gotten with the A-Team. I think he was on that for a year or 2, and Ice Cube was going to play B.A. Baracus.
Probably would have been better.
Probably. And it says here that it came down to casting issues where I don't know if it was about the other 3 guys, but I know he really wanted Cube to do it.
But it's like, it's the weird thing when you look at a director's career, and it's especially, with Singleton, he died. So there's even more movies that won't get made. Like, he would have still been working, but and you're like, oh, look at this gap here. What's going on? Like, between Four Brothers and Abduction, and like, why does he end up making Abduction? That feels like kind of a, damp project for him to take. And it's like, there's just years of things of him like bumping around,
not getting made.
Not getting something going.
Ugh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, and if you look at, there's a Hollywood Reporter article, and you can literally read the filing of the lawsuit he did against Paramount, where it just feels like he was very frustrated that they courted him so aggressively. They made this movie, they overpaid for Hustle and Flow, gave him this first look deal, and then didn't make the movies that he wanted to produce, and didn't give him the green lights on the movies he wanted to direct, and he kind of just lost 6 years of his directing career waiting for them, stuck in that system. And then the second that deal was done, and he took what probably was just one of the quickest green lights he could get available. I think that was kind of why he took Abduction, that everyone was so eager to test if Taylor Lautner could be an action star that it was like, this will start filming in 4 months if you want to make this, you know? And then Paramount then said that was betrayal of their contract, which is bullshit. I mean, I was talking about this with someone the other day about like contractual stuff, and they said, you know, like, it's good to get this stuff in paper, but ultimately the studios are going to do whatever they want to do or not do whatever they want to do. Like, as much as you can get these guarantees on things, even if you're a big name guy like John Singleton, if for whatever reason they just go cold on you, they will find any way possible to not live up to their end of a contract.
It's so crazy. I was talking to a friend of mine who has a first look or one of these overall deals, and they were like, oh yeah, like, I thought that the perception was, oh, this overall deal means they really want to make something for me, so every time I bring something up, they're going to try to make it work. And they realized, like, oh no, it feels like the overall deal is just to make sure that I'm not making stuff for my competitors,
right?
Yeah,
it's golden
like,
handcuffs
that's really
kind of thing.
That's really all it is, and it's just like, it's so crazy that that's how people work, but it for sure is in Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
that part of Hollywood is like, it's it's the reason, like, people are like, well, why is so much trash made? It's like, it's stuff like this that happens.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You have like great people who can't get stuff made, even though they've proven that they can do it.
And like, to that, you know, like, when you read about, like, okay, well, what's the genesis of Four Brothers? It's Lorenzo de Bonaventura, the guy who produced this, wanted to make a movie about brothers. Like, what the fuck does that mean? What,
Exactly.
he's just sitting in his office looking out the window and sees like two brothers, and he's like, oh, what if there were four brothers though? Like, I just don't even. Like,
but even like the Foster Brothers element wasn't part of his original pitch. Like, he goes out to a bunch of writers and is like, someone bring me a brothers thing, and they went like, what if they're foster brothers? And he went, huh, interesting. And it's like, how is that not the starting point? The starting point was
just a thing about brothers. Oh, give me a break.
It was that general though. Like, Lorenzo di Bonaventura, he was the head of Warner Brothers in a really strong run. Like, Matrix was one of his many sort of movies that made him
90s.
look like a visionary, right? Like, if you have a movie like Matrix come out under your stewardship, you get to cash out on that for decades.
He did the Matrix, and he bought the Harry Potter rights.
Right,
he was the one who swept in fast and got those. So those were his big wins, right?
He goes independent after this, or, you know, rather, he becomes an independent producer rather than being a studio head. And he was one of the guys, I would say, at the beginning of the 2000s who was like, we should make dork stuff high budget and classy.
Yeah.
Like, he was sort of,
Constantine,
you know,
Doom.
but he got the Transformers rights early. He got the G.I. Joe rights early. Like, you know, he was pushing all these things, buying all these properties, and being like, you could make this as a serious movie, and then trying to make sort of like mid-budget programmers with movie stars like this. Kind of was into like respect for junky stuff, you know?
Right.
But yes, he just says, I don't know, we should do something about brothers. These two writers come to him, who I think were the same guys who had been developing G.I. Joe for him.
I don't know the writers. David Elliott and Paul Lovett. Let's see. I mean, they have a credit on Rise of Cobra, and that's right.
I'm surprised they weren't brothers. You know, I think that would have helped the writing process.
You would think.
I am starting to get at a point in my career where I'm I'm having my agents come to me with this kind of stuff, like this, like, very loose, like, hey, this production company or this, you know, this famous person or this studio wants to make something based off of this very loose IP. What do you have a pitch? And it's like, what? Like, it's like, here's an article about this, you know, person. Here's a It's just like, oh, they want to make something about like the idea of somebody coming up in hip hop. Do you have an idea? And it's like, you have no show. Like what?
Or blank wants to do a comedy now. Blank learned French. Is there anything you can write where they can speak French? Right.
And I own half of whatever you pitch, by the way. So it's basically like, do all the work. And
do all
I'll
the work.
Take it to them.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, this is what it is.
It's your bid, David, but this movie really is Lorenzo de Bonaventure, one of the most powerful men in Hollywood at this point in time, leaning back in his chair, like holding out the like director's like Panavision fingers, right? And staring off into the middle distance and going, what if there were four brothers? Like that.
Yeah.
Although, no, to be fair, he said, what if there were brothers? And these two fuckheads walked in and said, what about four? And he gave them,
that's the number.
He was like, I'll pay you $1 million.
Yeah.
You can't leave this room. You can't take this to anyone else.
Yeah. David.
Yeah.
Today, we're talking about four brothers on the podcast.
True. Yeah. What if there were four brothers?
I was going to say, it's a movie that dares to ask that question. What if there were four brothers? But I have a bigger question that I want to pose now. What if there were two Fulops?
Two? Wait, I know about one Fulop. A rich Fulop, maybe.
Right, and many people, I think, know from Vicky Fulop.
Oh, but you're saying, what if their powers were combined?
What if their powers were combined to sell us bedding?
Look, Griffin, you're talking about Brooklyn and our great friends, our years-long friends.
I love them.
Send us copy all the time about, look, how, maybe you're living life at home and you want to turn it into a refuge, an oasis with a lot of like soft sheets and plush towels and loungewear. They send us this nice copy about upgrading your bedding and loungewear and towels and robes from Brooklyn and
look, it's very well written copy, but every time I just go, I want to talk about Rich and Vicky.
Rich and Vicky Fulop, though. Look, they started this company to create beautiful, high-quality home essentials that don't cost an arm and a leg. And it's a success. They're legends. What they did was they figured out if you work directly with manufacturers, you can make luxury available to you without luxury level markups. Okay? You're going to get an amazing array of products at a reasonable price. Buttery, soft, breathable sheets, Griffin.
Oh, come on. Lightweight alternative down comforter? Down alternative?
Yeah. They sent those over.
Oh, great for summer sleeping.
They've got towels. I've got some Brooklyn towels that are really good. They got robes. I have a Brooklyn robe that's really nice. Loungewear. They're so confident in their core products. They come with a 365-day warranty. And fans are confident. They've gotten more than 75,000 5-star reviews and counting. And their customer service, clearly they get their 8 hours every night because, Griff, they're a dream to work with.
What I would give to sleep in that bed with Rich and Vicky Fulop. Can I share something that you don't know, David?
Yeah.
Jordan Hoffman, great friend of the show, past and future guest.
We love him.
I think in response to one of our Brooklyn and ad reads where we talked about their down comforter, send me a text, just devoid of context, out of nowhere.
Which he loves to do. He loves to do that.
Right. Previous text from him, October 25th, 2019.
Sure.
And then a month ago, he sends me a text that just says, isn't every purchase of goose feathers a down payment? And I said, Jordan, thank you so much for this joke.
Yep.
I will use this in our next Brooklyn and ad read and give you full
flip
credit.
Him 10? You flip him 10 CPs?
Flipped him a quick 10 comedy points. He said, I grant you permission. And then the next time he texted me was a week later. Once again, apropos of nothing, he said, I just haggled at the PC Richards. Try doing that online. You got to go and bring cash.
Good for him.
Yeah. So, important update. Yes, you can make a down payment today by buying some nice goose feathers from Brooklyn, but you can also buy buttery soft Luxatine sheets. I re-up several times a year. I can't get enough of this stuff, and I can't get enough of Rich and Vicky.
Well, you can give yourself the comfort refresh you need and deserve, and get it for less at Brooklyn. Go to brooklinen.com and use promo code blankcheck. Get $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's BROKLINEN.com. Enter promo code blankcheck for $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's brooklinen.com's promo code blankcheck. That's it.
That's it.
Rich and Vicky. See you on the other side
of the Hello.
I think Wahlberg is the first person aboard, and he brings Singleton aboard. Like that's they're pals.
There's a piece I feel like I talked about in our Shaft episode that Shane Salerno wrote for Deadline when Singleton died, about his experience working with Singleton on Shaft. And in it, he mentions that they were flying somewhere for the movie, and Wahlberg was also in first class, and the three of them and a fourth person I'm now forgetting all just talked about movies for like the entire flight, just sort of dorked out about movies, and Wahlberg was talking about how much he wanted to do something with Singleton. The other thing that the great J.J. Birch, now doing research for us on the podcast, pulled up a lot of really incredible excerpts of interviews with Wahlberg around this time, where Wahlberg was kind of like, I made all these movies that I think are dumb. I worked with all these big directors that people told me would be good for my career, and they were stupid, and I was right. And Wahlberg...
He's talking about, inarguably, the good movies that he has been in, basically.
Well, look, here's the thing. It's half the good movies that he's been in, and half... I was realizing this. The only Wahlberg movies we've covered on this show are all of Wahlberg's flops where he was miscast by an auteur, right? Where it's like
That's
The
true,
Happening,
sure.
Truth About Charlie, Planet of the Apes, where you could just tell the directors were like,
of the Apes.
look, you got to work with this person. To the point where when he's making this movie and Scorsese's trying to get him in The Departed, and he's doing interviews for this movie. I guess when this movie's coming out, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to do it. I don't know. I'm edgy about it. Like, because he's like, they're telling me I can't turn down Scorsese. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Don't tell me I can't turn down Scorsese. Every time I work with a good director, it's bad. But I remember when, what was it called? Broken City?
Broken City is the is that what it's called?
One of the Hughes brothers.
The Hughes brothers. Yeah, it's called Broken City. Yeah,
the corrupt mayor movie with him and Russell Crowe. Where I remember his press tour for that movie, which just like bombed and didn't really exist, was him going like, no, this is the kind of movie I actually like. I don't like all those other movies I'm in that you guys go see. This is the kind of movie my dad would have actually respected. This is what I wish I could be doing all the time. And Four Brothers feels like the beginning of him being like, this is when Entourage is starting up. He's had some big hits, but he's had some big flops on his resume. He's getting more active as a producer. And he's just like, I don't know, I kind of want to make like cops and criminals B movies. Like I want to make like inner city tough guy movies.
Right. This is kind of a good run for him. You know, he's just done Italian Job and I Heart Huckabees. I Heart Huckabees is like obviously his best performance ever. I mean, I guess you could argue for Departed, but like he's so like vulnerable and funny and like open in that movie. It's an incredible performance. His response to it seems to be like, yeah, the movie was weird. I didn't like it. I don't fucking get it.
I mean, but, I want to read this exact quote here. He said, this is in August 2005 to promote this movie. He said, imagine all my friends watching I Love Huckabees. They're like, it's pretty cool when you punch that guy in the face, but the rest of it, who gives a fuck? How am I going to explain an existential comedy to my buddy who just got out of jail? He wants to see tits and ass and some heads being busted. And then Rolling Stone says, does that mean more movies like Four Brothers and fewer movies like Huckabees? And he says, not necessarily, but that doesn't mean a fucking favor for every motherfucker in the business. I don't give a fuck if you've got Oscars. If you ain't fucking giving one to me, I don't give a fuck.
I feel like Wahlberg has kind of mellowed a little bit, right? He doesn't have this energy now, right?
Right. Reading this was a flashback to like, oh, right. Like in 2005, Mark Wahlberg was still seen as the guy who might punch strangers.
He's aggro. Very, very. He's still like, he had this movie at TIFF last year called Joe Bell. That's like a true story movie, you know, like where he's like making an effort. I don't think the movie is totally successful, but you know, he does occasionally still do it once in a while. That's not really much anymore. No, now he really like, it's Peter Berg. For the lighter side, he does like Sean Anders, right? And that's kind of it. He's kind of just doing that over and over again.
Isn't there another guy? Oh, Fuqua.
Fuqua.
His
he
new
made
movie is a
movie with
Fuqua. Yeah, that
Yeah.
feels like another guy who's a good match for him. But he had
I guess he's in the Uncharted movie, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
This was the run where he was kind of really finding his zone. I mean, obviously, like Departed after this, Huckabee's the year before this. He has this run of like good mid-budget like thrillers and crime movies where he's really getting strong.
Yeah, right. You're talking. Well, yeah. I mean, geez. I mean, like The Big Hit, he's great in that. Three Kings, he's great in that. The Yards, he's fantastic in. He's he does have a good. I mean, he's right. Then he has The Perfect Storm. Well, that's a hit. But then Planet of the Apes, Rockstar Truth About Charlie. That's the sort of bumpy. You're not quite an A-lister yet, buddy. Sort of period for him, right?
I think the thing for him was he was an ultimate example of one of those guys where it's like you got to cast him properly, right? When he's bad, he's like calamitous, but used correctly, he's really powerful. And then, the year after this, he has Invincible, which is kind of like a surprise hit. He gets his Oscar nomination for The Departed.
Invincible rules. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's
that
a good movie.
I would love more movies like that. And do you like Invincible? Anyone, Bray? Are you an Invincible fan?
Is that the football?
It's the inspirational. Yeah, he becomes an eagle.
He's like cut off the streets. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was good.
Directed by Erickson Core, whoever that is. Yeah, you watch it on a plane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
But then he's in this like The Shooter, We Own the Night. Happening is obviously a step back for him. Max Payne doesn't exist.
Yeah, Shooter was weird.
Shooter stinks. We Own the Night is incredible.
Yeah.
Max Payne is awful.
Right.
He is really miscast in Max Payne. That is.
I never saw Max Payne.
Oh, I mean, that's a bad movie on every level. And The Lovely Bones. Oh,
that's what I was going to say. So then 2009 is Lovely Bones. That feels like the last time for a while he is that fundamentally miscast, right? And then he enters this zone where he finally becomes the A-list guy, where he's like in the pocket.
Other guys, right.
Other guys, Fighter, Contraband Ted, Broken City is the only one of that run that isn't a hit. Like even Contraband comes out in January and makes like $90 million. Pain and Gain, Two Guns, Lone Survivor's huge. And then he takes over Transformers. And you're like, fuck. Now he's like got a franchise. His crime movies do well. He like hosts the Kids' Choice Awards. He does comedy and action and sci-fi and whatever. And like, I guess he's got it figured out. And then he sort of starts to like, he does The Gambler. Buddy, once again, you're misreading yourself.
Right. All the Money in the World is a huge misread.
The Entourage movie flops. Ted 2 flops. Daddy's Home's a huge hit. But then like Deepwater Horizon, Patriots Day both underperform. Transformers Last Night kind of kills the franchise. All the Money in the World, as you said, like huge misidentification. And then now he's in this odd zone where it's like Mile 22 doesn't exist. Instant Family quietly rules. Spencer Confidential apparently was watched by 8 billion people on Netflix.
I watched it. It's bad. It's like the bad version of Four Brothers.
Spencer Confidential.
This was a Wahlberg detective movie with Winston Duke that Netflix claimed was like the biggest thing in the world and that no one has ever talked about.
It sucks.
Oh my God,
it stinks.
I did not see this movie.
Yeah.
It's based on the TV show. It sucks. It's really Four Brothers-y though. Like it's set in Boston instead of Detroit, which only makes it more insufferable.
Post Malone is in it?
Post Malone is in it. That is true. And it's him like busting heads and getting into like digging into organized crime and like only Spencer, and it's it's the bad version of this movie.
Right. Okay.
It just feels like every time he gets some juice in his career, he wants to go back and make a movie like this. And in 2010, they announced that they were developing a sequel, which I have to imagine was just because Wahlberg was hot and he wanted to do it. Like, I can't imagine Paramount was like, we need to get this off the ground. It was more like, if he wants to do that, we want to be in business with him. And then, as you pointed out, even this year, Tyrese has been claiming it's still going to happen on Instagram.
I want to address this because Tyrese apparently posted. I'm gonna read his caption on Instagram. Paramount has officially greenlit a sequel to Four Brothers. No lies here, LOL. It's all over the net. The script is almost done to the sequel. I mean, it's magic. Going to be cool as hell getting back with the crew. Hashtag Detroit. Give me 4 favorite quotes from the movie. Go. And then he links to the Hollywood Reporter article from 2010.
Okay.
I love you, Tyrese. You're great. You're the best.
Oh my god!
Like, clearly, he's like, oh, the script's so good. I mean, it says so here in this Hollywood Reporter article.
The director is dead, and one of the 4 brothers is dead in universe.
Yeah, in the movie. Like, what is this sequel gonna be?
Is it 5 brothers and you have to add 2 brothers? Right. Like, I like to use that.
Or is it titled Four Brothers -1?
Yeah,
right. 4 brothers -1, and maybe that's how you do it.
It's 4 brothers, and then it's just that one. Tyrese now sees his dead brother, and it's just like Umbrella Academy, where he's just following him around.
Look, I'd like that. Yeah, but I do think, I mean, this movie was just like, Bonaventure had a good relationship with Wahlberg. Wahlberg wanted to do a movie with Singleton. They come up with this very simple premise. It does kind of feel like, I remember seeing the poster for this movie and going like, oh, that seems
cool freaking poster.
Cool. It's a cool poster, but it was more just like, all I need to know. You're telling me these 4 guys are brothers? And they got guns and they're going to take justice in their own hands? Like, I don't need to know anything else.
I was gonna say, like, I always find it weird when I watch certain movies that have these kind of simple premises, but they're premises that I like. You know, I gravitate towards these types of movies, and yet the movie just somehow screws it up. It's not good. It's less because I don't need a movie to be innovative all the time. I just want it to be interesting, exciting. I want the action to be good. I want the acting to be fun, you know, and I want it to just make enough sense so I'm not constantly questioning the logic of the film. And yet it feels like Hollywood has such a hard time making these types of movies, and that's why it's like movies like this, they stick out to me, because I'm like, I remember Four Brothers. Like, that movie, like it did everything you want it to do. It's successful in it. It's fun. You know, you don't necessarily, you're not like going home rethinking your life, but you're like, hey, I had a good time. I paid money to go see this thing, and it was worth the price of admission.
Singleton's quote was, this is one of those Saturday night special movies. You have a good time and enjoy it for what it is. Like,
right.
You have to admire that he knew that's exactly what he was trying to deliver.
Right.
This is now the 3rd episode in which this is going to be brought up. But Bray, have you seen For Those Who Wish Me Dead, the Angelina Jolie fire movie?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I literally put it on and then was like falling asleep. Like, I did not pay attention to that movie whatsoever. It just,
it didn't capture you. It did not
at all. Yeah.
You're saying that that's a Saturday night special.
Yeah,
like,
I love that movie for knowing exactly what it is, with very capable actors and like over delivering a little bit. And I said this on a Patreon episode, but I want to say this again on main feed. Any critic who gave that movie a bad review should be arrested. That should be illegal. Like, I
think that is too hot a take, Griffin. I like that movie, but okay, go on. Keep going.
No, because here's my thing. You don't have to say it's great. You can't criticize it. But the thing that drives me crazy is the amount of reviews I read for that movie where people are like, I don't know, it's just like one of these things. And I'm like, then you don't get to complain about every $250 million movie ending with a portal in the sky. Like, it's the same people who go like, why won't they give us movies that don't have the portal in the sky? And then someone makes a movie like that's a Saturday night special that isn't Oscar bait, right? And it feels like anything in between those two poles, a lot of people don't know how to process anymore.
Yes, it's weird. And let's say Four Brothers came out now, it would probably get a similar reaction.
Yeah.
Not that Four Brothers is the reinvention of cinema or anything, but yeah, people would be like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, what's the deal? They're just brothers. I didn't get, it didn't really grab me. And it's like, you know what? We need more movies that don't really grab us, okay? That are just pretty good.
I'm confused by why this thing exists. It doesn't seem to set up any spin-offs. Why? Yeah, no, it's like you want more sort of like good junk food movies like this, and movies that are like made for adults, are not sophisticated, but are like intelligently crafted adult popcorn, which I feel like watching Singleton's Hollywood sort of blockbuster run these couple of weeks has really made me long for.
Yes.
I just want to throw out a wild stat here. From IMDb trivia, so who knows how well this is sourced. Betty White was apparently considered for the role of Evelyn Mercer. Can you imagine how distortive it would be to watch this movie today?
Ruin the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is pre Betty White as living meme, right? Like it would be right before then.
It would have worked at the time. She would have been like,
Griffin, I'm not sure that it would have worked at the time. I gotta be honest with you. It might have.
I don't know.
Because she had been in Bringing Down the House. Isn't she kind of doing the Betty White thing in Bringing Down the House?
Yes, she is. But yeah,
right. I feel like she probably would have been doing the Betty White thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Right. It might have undercut the because they did try to. The movie tries to like make you feel like no, this is a real mother who like cares about these men, and these men respect her.
Sure,
she's really good, but it does suggest that they really were like, we are looking for a nice little old lady with white hair. Like, who you got? Like, if Betty White was their first choice.
Yeah. Seriously.
The Bobby list was Ethan Hawke, Matt Damon, and Affleck before they go to Wahlberg. Wahlberg brings on Singleton, and then I imagine Singleton. I read interviews to back this up. Singleton immediately went, I'm obviously bringing Tyrese on again. Why break the streak? Right. And then Andre was his big like project where he really wanted him to do this. And I think everyone was like, Andre Benjamin feels like a guy who should be like a movie star, but was very reticent to take his steps into it because he wanted to manage his career properly. And the bizarre thing that JJ pulled up here is that Andre, I'm just going to read this verbatim. Andre initially turned it down because he, quote, just wasn't sure he could play a guy with 3 brothers. And then Andre Benjamin's further quote is, I'm an only child in real life. I love being by myself. That's where I feel most comfortable. I didn't think I'd make a plausible sibling.
They're too in their heads about the brothers. All these guys.
First of all, that's hilarious. But also it worked out because he was the brother who was kind of the most estranged.
Yeah.
It's true.
And it like
he's
actually
the distant one.
It felt right. Like he was like he's in it, but you always feel like he never felt like he really belonged in this crew, and he has to like put it on, and you're like, oh yeah, he's playing this role great.
He seems a little bit out of remove.
Yeah.
He seems like he's the one who's a little more elitist and judgmental. The whole movie, most of its tension comes from trying to figure out whether he's with them or against them. And that's not the way probably anyone else was envisioning using Andre 3000 as an actor at this point. Like if you think about Heya being 2 years earlier than this and Be Cool being exactly the part he's probably being offered 8,000 times a week. It's smart
hilarious
for
rappers,
Singleton to use him this way. And then, and then the Headland part was just like, okay, here's a role for one of the white guys we're testing out whether or not he could be a movie star. And Renner and Cooper were apparently both in the running for it. But Headland's much younger. Headland's 20.
Yeah, because he had, as I love to think about, he was the runner-up for Ryan in the OC, for the lead role in the OC. And again, my new favorite podcast is the OC Recap Podcast that Rachel Bilson hosts. And the casting agent came on, and this is crazy, and said that Chris Pine was the other runner-up and was rejected because he had acne. He had like bad skin. Which is crazy to think about. Like he was like, I feel horrible saying this, but that was the network's objection to him. He had shitty skin. Wow. But anyway, Garrett Hedlund. So yeah, he's a baby. And when like Tron Legacy is 5 years later, like he's not really a thing post this movie for a while. he's not really happening. Like,
no,
yeah.
I mean, he does Friday Night Lights the year before this, right? And this is those two movies, this and that, are like this. Do you know this guy came close to getting that big show? This stupid thing. I mean, you talk about the weird ways that the industry thinks, Braylock. It is often better for your career to not be hired for something that goes on to be a hit than to be in something that does okay. Because they're like, well, if they thought about him for this thing.
Right.
And it's like,
right.
but they did
have a hit show.
The only time I have ever had, like, I felt genuine momentum in my career is when I didn't get hired to do the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movie. And that was like the only time where I started getting jobs by reputation, because they were like, well, I don't know, they thought about you. And I was like, yeah, my screen test was a disaster. Like, but it didn't matter. The fact that they had considered putting me in something like that.
It meant you were on the list of young actors that they, whatever, the pool that they dipped into to find
It's very
turtles.
much a monkey see, monkey do industry. And
And the Friday Night Lights movie is a lot of those like kind of young guys. And then this movie, it's like, oh, wow, you're putting him like above the title with like one proven movie star and two like very famous musicians who are also becoming movie stars.
Right.
I guess he's a dude. And then it feels like for like 7 years, he was one of those guys who was constantly on those short lists about testing for the young, blonde, handsome guy in any tentpole movie. Like, it just felt like he was always in the mix, and then Tron was the one he got, and then that didn't really connect. And then kind of right after Tron, he starts having a really interesting career as more of a character actor, where he starts doing like Llewyn Davis and shit.
He's really good in Llewyn Davis. I enjoy him in Billy Lynn. I feel like we shouted him out in that.
Maybe the best performance in that movie? Yeah.
Without a doubt. I like him more when he's doing that, when he's off to the side a little bit. I think he's good in Triple Frontier.
He's good in Mudbound.
But like he's pretty bad in Pan, which is like where he plays Captain Hook, where he's being asked to be like the sort of like charismatic movie star. He's fine in Tron Legacy. I mean, that's a horrible role to get because obviously you're just being surrounded by noise and visuals and like, that's I like him, and yet I'm looking at his career and it's like it's not like there's any slam dunks here.
No.
Like, what's my favorite Garrett Hedlund performance? Is it still his like silent performance in Inside Llewyn Davis? Like, is that it?
It's pretty undeniable. But also he's great in Billy Lynn, which it's like
he is really good in that.
You kind of have to give him props for that, because as someone who hosts the podcast Blank Check and has watched Billy Lynn in 4 different formats, he is the one performance that plays equally well in all of them.
Yeah, he's genuinely good in that movie.
David.
Yeah.
People like to say hello Newman to me.
Like Seinfeld says it? Like, hello Newman.
Yes, like the Seinfeld show. They think that is funny. They think that's funny to say because my last name is Newman. Anytime I go and check in at a desk,
hello,
I check in
Newman.
at security. When I spent fucking 36 hours in the tank for a fake ID when I was 20 years old,
sure,
all the guards said hello Newman to me. They thought that was really clever. Everyone thinks it's the first time I've ever heard that, and I'm going to laugh it up. And I never had a good response to them, and I finally come up with one.
Hit me.
Hello Fresh.
That's right, because you just want, whenever someone comes at you with a Seinfeld reference, you want to come back at them with, the America's best home cooking meal kit.
It's the ultimate clapback. I'm saying you're making fun of me, and I'm telling you I want you to eat better and save time and money.
Yeah, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. You get to skip a trip to the grocery store, and you get to have a little fun in your kitchen, learning maybe to cook, maybe if you're not an experienced cook, or if you just want to, whip up something really quick, you're doing that.
Right, or if you just want to hone your Jerry impression. That is the hardest Jerry to do because it's one of the only phrases in which he doesn't go up at the end of the sentence.
He doesn't go up. He's not asking a question.
You can't do it. It's just sort of a hello.
No question. No question.
No question asked.
HelloFresh. Look, they cut out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips. You can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in about 30 minutes or less. They got all kinds of quick and easy meals. They got 15 to 20 minute dinners. They got breakfast on the go. They got all kinds of options. You know, if you want to maybe go gluten free, or you want, I'm looking at, Gourmet Plus, Surf and Turf, takeout favorites. They got plenty of different things for you to pick from. Something for everyone to enjoy. These recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts. So they got deliciousness and simplicity. It's pretty good, Griffin. And it's 28% cheaper than shopping at your local grocery store, 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal.
And let's also say, in the past, you might have heard us do ads for Green Chef. I believe Slimer did some of those ads for us.
Sure.
Well, Green Chef is now owned by HelloFresh, and with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. If you're just asking me, David, I love switching between the brands. I switch 4 or 5 times a day, and now my listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount with me.
Look, it's good stuff. HelloFresh, it's very flexible. Everything comes all packed up. You can get it delivered whenever you want. You can choose whatever you want. Listen, I'm just going to get to what I'm thinking of as a sort of a call to action, okay?
Please, get to the point.
Go to HelloFresh.com/blankcheck14 and use code blankcheck14 for up to 14 free meals plus free shipping. So it's blankcheck14. HelloFresh.com/blankcheck14. And the reason it says 14 at the end there is you're going to get 14 free meals plus free shipping. It's America's #1 meal kit. Look, this movie is weird. Okay, there are 4 brothers.
Yes.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Wahlberg is alpha brother. And like in classic Mark Wahlberg style, he's just a dirtbag. Like that's who he is, right? He doesn't
he's
even
got a hot head. He's a real hot head.
Yeah, there's no actual description of the crime that he gets into.
What he is,
just
right?
It's like, does he sell drugs? Like
cold open of the movie is Fanula Flanagan getting shot, right? Then you go to the credits.
A good sequence.
Great sequence.
Chilly, like you said, Griffin, like it's all snowy and kind of dark, and it's good. It's a good sequence.
And it's also showing that she lays down the law, but she actually really cares about this kid. Doesn't want him to get in trouble.
Then you go to this credit sequence, the start of Singleton's use of like deep 70s kind of dark ages of Motown on the soundtrack, which I think gives this movie
the soundtrack to this movie is
really great energy.
Really good.
With these guys in the like bitter cold driving back home to this funeral, right? And then you get to them in the backyard post-funeral, and then this scene with Josh Charles and Terrence Howard, where Terrence Howard like sets up the 4 characters, right? Explains to his partner who they are. I rewound this scene 3 times for the reason you guys just said, where I kept on being like, I feel like I missed a line. He like starts setting them up and finishes setting them up and never actually sets them up. Like
we all know there are 4 brothers. There's the hothead, there's the army guy, there's the successful family man,
the snob,
and the rocker.
Yeah.
Like that. Those are the 4.
And the little runt rocker. He's the youngest.
Are the 4 types of brothers.
Don't let him fool you. He's still a Mercer. I think that's the line. It's a specific. Don't let him fool you. He's still a Mercer. And then they're like, oh, and this guy must be bad. No, actually, he's okay.
Right.
Andrew, he's chill. He's chill. Nice guy.
It's an odd dynamic, but I do like this energy of like 4 guys who are very different, who do feel a genuine sense of brotherhood. And I agree with you, Braylock. It is the thing this movie probably does most successfully, is just the sibling energy between them.
Yeah, because it's like Tyrese, Mark Wahlberg, Hedlund, they have that together, right? Like they're all, and then Andre feels like he's up kind of somewhat outside of it, but trying to join in at times, and then at other times just being like, you guys are idiots, I'm staying over here, so it feels right, but they're like, oh, they care about each other. You kind of don't care about what their lives were, like how long it's been. Like they're like, oh, like there's just a general feeling that they've been away for some time, even though the one kid like seems like he's very young. So I'm like, how long has he been away? A year? Like he couldn't possibly have been away that long, But it's like they both have the feeling like they haven't been here in 10 years, and also they were here like yesterday because they haven't skipped a beat. Like everything that they do in this movie, it's just with the utmost confidence, and like the only thing that's changed is that Victor Sweet has now, like, I guess, taken over. He's the head gang member of Detroit.
He's taken over a restaurant and he's bossing everyone around.
You were saying that this movie is sort of like overly stuffed with plot. There is like a chunk in the middle where I would say I started getting confused about what I should be caring about and what I shouldn't. Like in a movie like this, you go like, which threads do I actually need to pay attention to versus what is just superfluous kind of like exposition. Yeah.
It's a revenge movie where they get their revenge pretty early on, but there's still like a good chunk of them hunting down the killers and killing the killers. And then then we've got an hour and 20 minutes left.
There's
right?
the mystery. Right.
Right. And then it's like, okay, well something's up with Andre's character, you know, in terms of like public corruption and state senators and payoffs and all that. Something's up with there's a corrupt cop, like there's a whole Terrence Howard subplot to deal with. Mm-hmm. And then also there's like, there's Victor Sweet. Let's introduce you to Victor Sweet and let's get this going, because this is going to be our major thing now. Like,
which maybe takes like an hour.
Yeah. Then he shows up and it's like, okay.
I do think, I mean, we were talking about, like, you know, Hedlund's a guy who just kind of gets lost in movies over a certain budget size, right? Like, I think this is a thing we often talk about when we break down careers, is like some actors do not have the versatility to be able to find their way to do their thing in any type of project, not just genre, but like structure and budget and size and all this sort of shit. And you know, you forefronted this, Braylock, with how much like Chiwetel's performance is the thing that really sticks with you in this movie. It is kind of a good point where, like, up until this point, he was this very respected British actor who had gotten roles in movies that allowed him to like sort of act in a traditional sense, right? Like play a human being, handle real, like intimate human drama and shit like that. And sometimes actors like this, when you start going like, hey, can we make you the and give you like 5 scenes where you just kind of have to pop as the villain, you can tell they don't really give a shit about it, or they can't figure out a way to do it. You know, they can't figure out a way to adapt their process to something where it's not really there on the page. And this is that year where you go like, oh, Chiwetel can kind of do anything. Like, he can kind of just look at the script and figure out how to elevate whatever you're giving him. He knows when to go big, when the choice is to not take it seriously at all. He knows when to like really drill down. He could be funny, he could be scary, he could be romantic. Like and I also feel like he can fully own being the lead. And he can also be very generous about knowing, like, I know exactly what my part is. I know exactly how much I can do before it starts to disrupt the thing.
Exactly right. Because that's the thing is, you know, I do think a lot of actors get the chance at being just this villain, and they're like, all right, here's my chance to like ham it up and like kind of, you know, chew the scenery, do everything I can. But as the audience, you kind of feel that a lot of times. Like, you feel them doing it, and then you're like, I don't know if I buy it. You have to buy the fact that this person feels as dangerous as they are presenting.
A lot of people forget to actually bring tension to the plate. Overqualified actors playing underwritten villain roles. They're like, oh, I get to just like have fun. And it's like, no, but your role in the movie is to create tension somehow. Right.
And so I just feel like he does, because again, he also brings a presence to a character that, like, when we first see him, it should be like, who is this person? Why do what are we doing? Like, shouldn't I find out who this guy is at the end of the movie? Isn't this a mystery? You know? Yeah. But it's like, no, he's the person looming in the background, and we're like, okay, we're gonna eventually have to deal with him. They're setting it up like Mark Wahlberg is gonna have to face this guy at the end, but
he has to set that up in essentially like 2 big scenes, right, leading up to the finale. Like, you need to introduce a guy this late, give him 2 scenes, and make it still feel like he's in your mind. You're aware that that's the big bad they're ultimately trucking towards.
Right.
Can I offer, though, one thing of criticism?
Please.
Yeah, only one.
Okay.
One.
The shooters feel to me like they're kind of like dealt with really quickly. And I know obviously it's like we want to get to the big bad guy, but I do feel like that's a big part of their revenge. But I feel like it's almost like, all right, now that we got that out of the way, we got to figure out the guy who's behind them. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just putting myself in the shoes of like, logically, wouldn't you want to go after the shooters? Not necessarily take down the infrastructure of crime.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
guys, we got to take down the infrastructure of crime.
It's a weird structural thing with this movie where it's like, this is a personal revenge thing, right? Then it's, wait a second, is our brother responsible for this? And then once they untangle that, they go like, oh, he isn't, but he is caught up in this thing. We need to save him. And I would argue the stretch where the movie loses a little momentum is in the middle between the two. When they've like gotten their revenge and they haven't cleared Andre Benjamin yet. And they're sort of like, how much do we need to care about the rest of this movie?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, first of all, the hunt for those two shooters was awesome because that's the snow chase car scene.
Yeah.
And their cars are slipping around and crashing into each other and then going again. And it's like, that was cool. And then but I guess, I actually couldn't track when they found out that they were contracted killers, if it was before they killed them or after they killed them.
Might be after. Yes, they definitely wiped those guys off the mat without asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, it was like boom, boom, get their wallets. Right. You know,
communicating plot information is this movie's weakness. Where sometimes you go like, has that been confirmed, or am I just inferring this?
Right. It's like, oh, I know their contract. Right. I, the audience member, know they're contracted killers. Does Mark Wahlberg know this yet? Like, I don't know if Bobby knows it. Yeah, because he certainly killed him like he knew that he was like, you know, I will say though, once you know, and once it feels like everybody now knows that it's contract killers, I would say you don't care about, like, those are the people, they got paid to shoot them.
Yeah.
You want them dead, but you also, the real revenge is the person who ordered the hit.
Right.
You know, that's the real, yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I've never had lost a loved one to murder and gone on a revenge tour, but if I did,
yeah, I mean,
I would want to hunt down the person who hired the
I only have one brother. I could never put myself in the shoes of these characters. I mean, thank God I wasn't asked to play the role. It would have been very hard to relate. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 brothers. I can understand 3, but
I should mention that after Andre Benjamin turned down the role because he didn't think he could convincingly play someone with siblings, he then was on his iTunes, and he got a computer-generated recommendation for an album by the folk revivalists The Brothers 4. And that he took as an omen. He called Singleton. He said, never mind, I'm doing the movie. So this is Andre Benjamin's career decision-making process. I will rule out a role because I think imagining having multiple brothers is outside of my wheelhouse, but if an iTunes algorithm gives me the name of that movie in an opposite order, I'll take it as a sign that I have to do it.
He's I think, what do you guys think of Andre? I think he's pretty good in this movie.
I think he's pretty fucking good in this
against
movie.
type.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not like the richest role in the world, but he's good. I think he's a pretty talented actor. He's obviously an incredibly talented musician. Mm-hmm. He's never cashed it in or whatever. Like he never figured it out, I feel like. Like I enjoy him in basically any movie I've seen him in.
How much has he been? How much?
Okay, so
I feel like this and Be Cool are the ones that I remember him from.
Are you ready for the run? So Be Cool, 4 Brothers, same year, right? Before that, he does. He did 2. He did an anime dub, and he has a small part in Hollywood Homicide, right? The same year as this, he also does Revolver, a Guy Ritchie movie that doesn't exist.
Yes,
the Guy Ritchie. It exists. It's a famed bomb. It's the one that's all like Kabbalah influenced. It's crazy. Yes.
Then this is the thing that I would argue kind of derails him. The following year is Idlewild.
Yeah, Idlewild. Yeah.
Which I think everyone was like, well, clearly this should be Outkast's Purple Rain. Right. Their videos are so good. They're so compelling. Everyone thinks this guy's going to be a movie star. This is going to be their last album. And that movie is just like a total total non-starter, but more than anything, he is really fucking boring in that movie. I remember being like, well, come on. Like, I know it hasn't gotten good reviews, but Andre is so good. And then you see it in Big Boy Pops, and he is just like so low energy in that film.
I wish that movie was good.
Yeah.
I do too. I started watching scenes on YouTube the other night because I was like, is there any chance it's good? And I didn't get it at the time. And it's just kind of inert.
Yeah. And then after that, like forgetting some voice roles, like apparently he's in Fracture. I'm not seeing. He's in Battle in Seattle, the famously unreleased.
Oh, he's in Semi-Pro.
And then, right, he's in Semi-Pro.
That was like one where now he's like above the title. He's the third lead. He's good in that. He's funny in that. And then he doesn't do another movie until the Jimi Hendrix movie 5 years later.
Which was so hyped because he kind of looks like Jimi Hendrix a little bit. And I guess just, it's like, oh, he's a musician. This will be great. Though Jimi Hendrix, there's never been a good movie about him.
Been attached for like a decade to
Forever.
make some kind of Hendrix movie. He gets a Spirit nomination, but it feels like that movie didn't really get a lot of attention. And then
I've never seen it.
Doesn't make me neither. And then he doesn't make another movie for 5 years until High Life. And when he shows up in High Life, he's great in High Life, but you're like, why isn't he doing something like this every year?
I feel like he's just chilling. I guess I don't know.
Maybe it's not for him.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I respect that.
Like he hasn't like where is he in music wise? I know he'll pop in on other people's albums and stuff.
He does a track on Frank Ocean's Blonde.
Right. Yeah.
And he's great on that.
He has a track on Channel Orange too, I think. And but like I don't really
I guess he was
it.
in the season 2 of American Crime.
Oh, right.
I guess he was. You're right.
He did his Cartoon Network show. He did 2 seasons of that, Class of 3000.
Uh-huh.
Which I think was very hands-on with. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't done like a solo album, right? No, okay, he did an EP in 2018 that was self-released.
Yeah. I don't know.
And that is the only like solo thing he's done since Outkast split up.
Someone who is like so transformatively important as a musician when like basically all the 90s and 2000s and then just kind of I don't know. I guess he just kind of picks his spots now. He's only 46 years old.
Have you all seen Dispatches from Elsewhere, this Jason Segel show?
No, is he on that?
Yeah, he's one of the 4 leads.
Wow.
That sounded so weird. And I kept meaning to check it out. And I never did because there's too much TV.
Segel, Andre Benjamin, Richard E. Grant, Sally Field. Yeah.
It just feels like I remember I saw the trailer for this show and I was like, wow, this show feels like a big swing. It's got some names in it. And then I heard literally no one talk about it. And I was like, well, I guess it must not be good. I don't
even think it got bad reviews. It just people are like, yeah, it was sort of interesting. And like, then that's that. It's on AMC and it just floats away.
But that's one of those things where I'm like, is there just way too much TV? If that had come out 6 years ago, would people be really into it? Does no one just have the time to check that out?
I genuinely, Griffin, I think you nailed it. No one had the time. Like, and it obviously it debuted like days before the pandemic, right? Like, and it's just, I guess everyone's just like, sorry, Jason, I know you've basically been in like soft retirement and you're back, but we don't have time to like check out whatever this is from you.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if it's on streaming. Oh, I guess it is now.
It's probably on fucking AMC Plus or whatever. This is the other problem.
That's the thing. AMC has their own thing. That's another thing that fucks them. Is just like, you have to subscribe to the AMC specific streaming service.
Yeah. Come on.
I mean, you guys realize you are saying we don't have time and it's a fucking pandemic. And
I know.
We all have been home.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about television during the pandemic. Television during the pandemic, one, it had to be on a streaming. It had to be bingeable.
Right.
Everyone know, you can't watch it on your phone.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, sorry, Quibi. And you have to... And it also had to be somewhat of a escapist kind of programming, right? Maybe like This May Destroy You, maybe being like the only
There were a couple things like that, right? That broke through because they were so good that people were like, okay, all right, we're gonna pay attention to this. But Yeah, mostly escapism.
But yeah, and I think this was just a little too weird, not bingeable, and it also got caught up because I feel like there was a lot of like high premise stuff like Upload and
Right.
There's like Avenue 5 and I don't know, there was like a lot of like oh, this is kind of a weird quirky premise, and I don't know, I just this one didn't break through.
Yeah.
It's weird because AMC does have a good track record, but
Yeah. Here's the thing I'll say about
maybe it's great though. Maybe
it's great. That's why I'm like
fucking incredible.
right.
Like,
Maybe this is my favorite show.
I don't know.
I will say this about Andre, and I've been trying to find like a smarter way to say this. I'm just going to say the dumb thing. He does have such a natural musicality to the way he speaks. Like he is just so engrossing. He has bizarre speaking rhythms, in a way that doesn't feel too affected. Like he's able to play the low key guy in the group, but always be captivating. I mean, he's playing the calm one in this movie, but he doesn't make the guy like a shrinking violet, which I think is, like no small feat.
Yeah. I mean, he services the movie very well, I would say. He does kind of get stuck with the role that's like probably the least memorable because it just, it's an action type movie and he doesn't, we don't really get to see him do much, but
and he's gone for a big chunk of it. Like the whole sort of middle act of the movie is based around the fact where it's like, where is he? What's he up to?
And Taraji is his wife in this. Like her character is almost non-existent. Like
it's almost a favor, that role. It's almost her being like, all right.
This is Singleton. I mean, double dipping with Taraji and Terrence Howard from Hustle and Flow at the same time, but also I feel like he was like single-handedly committed to making Taraji P a movie star. From when she didn't get the role she should have gotten after Baby Boy, he just kind of stuck with her. And it was in the notes that JJ put together, but an interview where he said he saw like Terrence Howard in The Best Man. He thought this guy was a star. He tried to get him for a part in Shaft, and he took a TV movie that I forgot existed. He played Muhammad Ali on an ABC TV movie that bombed. And then Howard's career was kind of just like floating for a couple of years, like playing the bad guy in Big Mama's House. So then when he found Craig Brewer and the Hustle and Flow script, he was like, Terrence Howard should do this. And then he went to Terrence Howard and he was like, you should have fucking listened to me 5 years ago. I was ready to like make you one of my stock company guys. And he said that like he asked Howard to do this as a favor because he knew that he was going to pop when Hustle and Flow came out. He wanted to be a guy who could benefit from that pop. But like those were two people where he was just like, they should be stars. I'm going to keep on trying to put them in shit until Hollywood takes notice. Yes. I mean, her role, she is so overqualified for this role at this point. It's nothing. I kept on waiting for there to be any scene where she does anything. Right, but then it's
at least like, Sofia got like, at least she had consistency. Like she was like the hot, crazy.
She has like comedy. She's got like a character game. I don't know. There's like
to be clear,
to play.
A little crazy. Her part of the movie. You are kind of like, we could have cut this, but yes, she has things to do.
What are the two names they give her? One of them is Loco Ono.
Living La Vida Loca.
Right, that's the other.
Oh no,
one.
yeah, he keeps saying that. I don't know. I forgot what else he.
No, he calls her Loco Ono and Living La Vida Loca. Yeah,
he's such a piece of shit.
Yeah,
you know
he really is.
He's such a fucking piece of shit. Like I love him, but he's such a motherfucker.
He is. And this is like that classic like. I don't know if you can make characters like this that you love it. We're watching Lost, and it's the same thing with like Sawyer. You're just like, Sawyer is a horrible racist, like
he's
terrible
a dick.
person, and then like it's like this lovable character, and you're just like, you can't make characters like this anymore.
But also, like, look, the next year is The Departed, where he finds like his perfect role, right?
Oh my god, perfect,
right? And they're just like, what if you suddenly took the burden of being a leading man off of Mark Wahlberg and just said, shoot as many spitballs as you want, right? And it's just the most thrilling thing to watch in the world, because when you watch him in this movie, you're like, is this guy like an issue, you know? Like, I should be having fun watching him like dick around with his brothers, but sometimes he goes too far. And the part of you're like, go further. I don't have to be rooting for you. It's fine.
Is the rule with Mark Wahlberg that he doesn't have to play someone from Boston, but he has to play someone from a city where they play hockey, and he can wear a hockey shirt.
Right,
like he wears a Red Wings jersey in this, and you're like, is he doing a Detroit accent? No, he's just doing Mark Wahlberg, but he's just kind of like, Detroit. It's like snowy or Boston. I get it.
Detroit,
I'm
it's Boston. It's the same. Yeah.
I mean, this
like,
is
what's the difference?
This is the other rule with Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's best when he's got a chip on his shoulder and he's playing low status, right? In a movie where like no one's taking him seriously, they doubt him, and he's got to prove that he's like with it and he gets it and whatever. That's what like all his comedy roles have started using him so well to do, and what Russell got early on. And then with things like The Gambler or All the Money in the World misidentify. Or you can have him be the guy punching down as long as he's not the lead of your movie, you know? But it feels like this is his mode that he wants to be in. And when you put him at the center of the movie, you sometimes go like, just take it down a notch.
This is my favorite line from him, and it's horrible, but it's when he's like, they're at the bar, and he's like, pour me and my brothers another round and some nice warm milk for my sister. And he's like, man, I'll drink you under the table. And he goes, we're not talking about sperm, Jack. This is whiskey.
It's just like nonstop.
Just like,
why does anyone put up with him? He's so annoying.
It's also like, why is he the de facto leader of the group? Like, I get he's the lead character because he's the one played by Mark Wahlberg.
No, but Griffin, this is a great question. Tyrese Gibson is in the military. He is clearly better at all of these things.
And he's bigger.
Yes. Is there any reason why this guy is the largest role of the four brothers other than that he's the one played by the most famous actor? And the answer I kept on coming back to is no.
I think he's just like, he's the craziest.
I mean, he is crazy. He certainly will interrupt a high school basketball game with a loaded gun or whatever.
Loaded gun.
I got the rock now.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. When he goes, I got the rock now, and he does a couple of dribbles, and you realize that he is at least a foot shorter than everyone around him. Like, truly every single person around him.
He drops a few and words. I would say at least one.
Maybe a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the idea being he's from this family.
He grew up with black brothers. Yeah.
Right. But still, where you're like, wow, like unblinking Wahlberg. You just, I mean, he sells that this guy definitely would act this way. I buy it.
Totally.
I mean,
Let's say 3 years later, his agents would not have let him do this. Like, to be like, but it's realistic. And they'd be like, Mark, you cannot say that word on camera under any circumstances. I don't care what you're playing. You seem too happy saying it. You're having too much fun. The IMDb trivia fact I want to throw out here: almost all of Mark Wahlberg's lines were improvised. Garrett Hedlund had difficulty improvising his lines, so director John Singleton and Mark Wahlberg helped him through it. What that sounds like to me is Mark Wahlberg kept on insulting Garrett Hedlund, a 20-year-old actor in a lead role for the first time, on camera, and Singleton had to be like, come on, just say something back.
You just say something back.
Yeah, right. Stand up to him. You're a foot taller than him.
Right, but it does feel like those scenes are him being like, hey, fuckhead, stop drinking so much cum. And then Hedlund's like, hey, come on, guys, I like girls. Like, his comebacks are they make sense when you realize they were not in the script and Hedlund was thrown off.
I mean, Hedlund works in this movie in that he feels like the youngest brother who is just kind of along for the ride. He's like the lookout.
100%.
But he's not bringing a lot to the table in terms of crime fighting.
No,
I guess.
And his character's the most underwritten, but he looks really fucking cool in this movie.
He's Ben. Ben, please speak to this. Yes.
Yeah. When I saw this movie in theaters, I remember asking my girlfriend at the time to try and cut my hair like his hair.
He's got that thing I don't think I've ever seen anywhere other than on this head, where he's got like the long stringy sideburns. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's what I loved about it. Yeah.
It does work. It's weird. It's weird that it works, because I'm like, not a bad looking dude.
No.
It's like it works for him. This
sells it.
freaking
Yeah,
weird
it didn't
rock-
look good on me.
I was gonna say it's not fair to say his character was underwritten because we have a scene where the mom looks at him and says, "I know you went through some really bad things before you got here,"
Yes.
and he is shaking in fear. So we know
We know.
he went through some really bad things.
We know he went through some really bad things. And look, Hedlund plays all of those moments really well. Like,
very real. I believe it.
even
Yeah.
just his sort of like bottled crying at the funeral. Like every time they cut to Hedlund and give him a shot where he has to express a lot with zero dialogue, that guy knows how to fill up with emotion. Like he's there.
And he must be like, look, this is these
Yeah.
guys are all I gotta make an effort with every bit of material, right? Like, he's clearly trying, but
I die on page 75. I got to do as much as I can. Yeah.
I gotta say, I was kind of surprised he died. That kind of shocked me. I figured the brothers were gonna make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's dude. The death rocks you. One of the brothers dies, man.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes the brothers die.
and that's why you gotta kill Chiwetel Ejiofor. You got to kill Victor
Gotta
Sweet.
get him.
You gotta get him. And they gotta set him up.
Talking about cold crime, snow crime, and all of that, it's like Fargo obviously does this really well. But when you get to this final Andre versus Chiwetel standoff, I just love that visual when you have the ground and the sky are the exact same color of white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's just ice and snow and a totally white sky, and it's
Yeah.
just like characters existing in like a void. It's unnerving.
Very.
I read the warmest it ever was when they were filming this movie was 24 degrees, and it was often below zero.
Wow.
Jesus.
Wow.
Crazy that's like a major American city. It sounds cold.
Yeah.
And I live in New York. New York is cold. It's not like New York is
Toronto
hot
and
in the
Detroit.
winter.
Toronto and Detroit, like the most major city in one country and one of the most major cities in another country, both presented as inhospitable in this film.
Oh man. Oh, there's one other part where Victor Sweet is like, I guess they're at, I don't know if it's the dinner table or the poker table, and he looks at it. This other guy, he's like, "Oh, you got married?" And he was like, "Yeah, maybe I'll have to take her for a ride." And like, there's a look that he gives that is maybe the most disturbing look I've ever seen on screen, where it just the lust and like villainy in his eyes is just like truly. I like had to look away. It was so cringy.
He's like the fucking Mad King from Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah.
like he's playing like a pretty small time Detroit crime guy,
Yeah.
and he's acting like he's like, I am God, and if I look at you, you turn to stone. Like that's how much energy he's putting.
Well,
into it.
at the end, that fucking fur coat and that like he's got like what looks like a $25,000 ski cap, right? Like he's wearing like a white ski cap that looks like it's made out of chinchilla or something. An interesting thing about Chiwetel is he has those interesting scars on his forehead, right?
Right, those are his. Those he got
Right.
those when he was a kid or whatever. Yeah.
Right, and they don't cover them up in movies. I feel like certain films they accentuate it more, but I do think it's interesting that like in his roles where he is playing like his sort of like sophisticated man fighting against injustice, right? Even from like the obvious like 12 years a slave scale to like his dumb paycheck version of that is 2012 where he's like begging the president to acknowledge that the world's about to end. I feel like those scars lent him like a sense of vulnerability and depth of just like, oh, this is a man who has like suffered, there's like such a well of feeling in him. And then when you put him in villain roles like this, it makes him more menacing as well. Like it can both be a vulnerability and an additional element of intimidation for him. He's also just got such a fucking interesting face.
He's got a great face. He's super handsome, but super, interesting to look at. His voice is just phenomenal. Like he just has the most like rich voice.
Yeah.
And like I said before, like I just appreciate that he'll do a lot of stuff. Like as much as maybe Hollywood has shortchanged him, like I do Like for crying out, like remember when he was in like the Maleficent sequel? Remember when he was the sort of villain in the Old Guard? Like
he's great in the
he'll
Old
pop
Guard.
in.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
good in the Old Guard.
Yeah, and even the Fuqua Wahlberg trailer that just came out this week. Have you guys watched that?
I haven't. Infinite is this movie we're talking about, which was going to come out in theaters. Now it's going to debut on Paramount Plus.
Here's my pitch for watching that trailer. Chewie is going for it.
Right.
Totally shaved head, big beard, big performance choices.
That sounds good.
As a villain, just intimidate Mark Wahlberg, like more of this. It just feels like him trying to outdo this character.
That is one of the movies, essentially because Wahlberg got so in the Peter Berg zone that it is surprising he's making this kind of high concept sci-fi movie with Antoine Fuqua. You know, like that seems like a swerve, but then it's too bad. It's like going to Paramount. I mean, maybe it's horrible. I don't know, but like it sucks that it's going to Paramount. Like because he'll probably be like, yeah, fuck that. I should just do Peter Berg movies, right? Like that's the lesson I learned.
I read a piece this week somewhere, Hollywood Reporter or something, about how angry Wahlberg was about that, and Fuqua as well, and how this was one of many cases where they literally were not notified. They found out when the story broke.
I understand that Hollywood is run by morons, and I understand that their reaction to the pandemic was especially moronic, and they were like scrambling and yada yada yada, and they're all owned by these companies that are like, why don't we have Netflix? You know, they're just yelling that all the time. Sure. But it's so weird that that's what they've done. Like you would think the one thing they remember how to do is massage the egos of super famous people you want to work with again. Like it's just come on. You know, you call Wahlberg and he'd be like, it's going to be the biggest thing for Paramount Plus. It's great for us if you can do this. You know what I mean? Like sell him on it, right?
That we're going to change the logo. It's going to be you on top of the mountain.
Right. It'll be Wahlberg Plus.
Yeah. But like, I feel like this week that we're recording this was the debut of, obviously this is a thing we love talking about in this show. What I think inarguably is the greatest logo of any movie studio ever, which of course is Warner Brothers Discovery.
Yes. Now, to be fair, that is not the logo that would play before a movie. That is the corporate logo. Sure. Thank God.
It sucks farts. It sucks farts through a straw. And
I'm about to look this up.
Oh, Bray,
just Google
get ready.
Warner Brothers Discovery logo. I mean, it looks like something that maybe you cooked up in, I don't know. How generous should I be, Griffin? 1 minute?
Wait, this
two?
is the actual image?
Here's what it looks like.
Wait, this is the real image?
Yeah, yes. It looks like a Gateway 2000 screensaver option where you can pick any text you want and it makes it into
it looks like clip art.
Yes.
Yeah. And also the fact that it says the stuff that dreams are made of. Like, is that a tagline that you just
get? But David...
Like, yep.
This is why I bring this up, because the whole press release with
that dreams are made of.
Yeah, don't end with a fucking proposition. The whole press release that came with this logo is them being like, we are reestablishing Warner Brothers Discovery as the #1 place for artists to tell stories.
Right,
we love artists. We are about artists now. Like, the whole thing is them trying to do damage control for how much AT&T pissed everyone off with the HBO Max deal, where they're like, we're not using the word content, stories. We love stories and artists' dreams, stories, artists' dreams. Here are the clouds.
I mean, it's a line from the Maltese Falcon, and what summons the history of noir more than that beautiful logo that looks like a bunch of golden letters hanging in a blue sky. It makes
Warner
me
Brothers
think
should
of
stop
Bogey.
dicking around and just replace the shield with Bogey's face, right?
Yeah,
because
that'd
for
be good.
years they had the Casablanca song underneath the logo. Now it's the logo with a different Bogey tagline. Just make it his smiling face. Make it like the Animaniacs popping out of the water tower, right? The WB shield and it flips open, and you have Zemeckis with a reanimated Bogey say, "Hey, come on, so Warner Brothers picture."
I love Bogey.
David.
Yeah.
David.
What's up?
It's time.
Uh-huh.
Time to get Mac in the saddle again. Mac in the saddle again.
So many different takes on Mac.
Mac, where a friend is. Oh, I'm sorry. So many different takes on Mac. We've been doing ads for Mac Weldon.
Return of the Mac, Mac the Knife. I'm trying to think of Macs we've done.
Years. We've been doing them for 4 years.
Well, they're
I
good.
probably have run through all these options. I know, but they were our first sponsor ever, David. So don't criticize me for scraping the bottom of the barrel with my Mac Weldon jokes.
You're not. You're kicking your summer off in style.
It's an unfortunate side effect of the fact that they have been such loyal partners with our show for years.
Don't scare them off. We're going to have all kinds of fresh stuff to tell people.
Mac in the saddle. I want to get Mac in the saddle again.
You're getting Mac in the saddle again because Mac Weldon, look, it's about a lot more than just underwear over there, which they have good underwear.
Sure, but that's just a starting point. You're barely getting to the bottom of this thing.
Their full collection, they've got t-shirts, polos, button-ups, shorts, pants, swimwear, so much more. I have bought all of those products from them over the years. They've got light and breathable fabric technology. They're going to keep you cool and comfy all summer. From work to working out, from happy hour to playing with your kids, they've got men's essentials for whatever your day includes.
I'll say this. I'm trying to remember the name of this specific thing, but I got these lounge pants from Mac Weldon, right?
Cool, sure.
It's not the Ace sweatpants. I want to say maybe it's the Sunday lounge pant. I think that's what it is, which is like a very casual sort of like around the house sort of pant, but it's not like sweatpants, right? It's not like pajama pants. They're light, they're breezy, they're good for the summer. Yesterday I was wearing them around the house, then I went, I should go out, get some takeout, get some food, change into real pants. And then I looked down and I said, I don't think I need to. And I just threw some shoes on that sucker and I wore them out and I didn't feel like a fool.
No, they're very versatile. Look, they got a lot of other stuff too. They got a good swim line. I have a couple of Mac Weldon swimsuits. They got board shorts. They're very quick to dry. They've got these Maverick Tech chino shorts and Radius shorts. It's very summery. They're comfortable, but they can handle you being active, that kind of thing.
David, you said quick to dry. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want a point of clarification. Quick to dry. So you're saying theoretically you wouldn't have to wait long after swimming to get Mac in the saddle again?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. Look, Mac Weldon, they got a free loyalty program called Weldon Blue. Level 1 gets you free shipping for life. Level 2, only have to spend $200. You're going to get 20% off every order for the next year. So, look, get Mac in the saddle again.
Mac in the saddle again.
Stay cool this summer. Look great doing it with all kinds of men's essentials from Mac Weldon. And listen, for 20% off your first order, visit macweldon.com/check and enter promo code check. That's macweldon.com/check. Promo code check. 20% off. Mac Weldon, reinventing men's basics. Mac in the saddle
and get Mac in the saddle again.
Four Brothers.
Okay.
What have we not talked about with Four Brothers? I do want to shout out Josh Charles, who is in this. Like I said, in SWAT the year before, maybe 2 years before, he plays the exact same character, like weak-chinned corrupt cop. What happened there? Like, I guess the Good Wife, he just sort of saved himself, but like post Sports Night, he's just kind of like, what do people want to do with me, and this is all they can think of.
I think, look, Josh Charles also quit Good Wife at arguably a peak of the show because he was like, I don't know, I was just kind of tired of doing it. I think he is a guy who does not really buy into career strategizing and just is like, I don't know, I feel like doing this. You have to imagine his reps were like, Josh, you cannot play another correct cop in an August blockbuster. You were going to be typecast forever. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it again.
John Singleton, it'll be fun. And then specifically his character, Detective Fowler, who kills Terrence Howard in cold blood in a pretty good little showdown scene, but then gets totally fooled by this insane plot that Tyrese comes up with where it's like, I'm going to pretend that I'm recording him on a wire and the cops will be summoned and he'll think they're there to kill him and thus fire on them. There's just a lot of assumptions being made.
A lot. It is a huge swing. Let me tell you, because there are so many ways for that to go wrong. Just
it goes
the
exactly
timing,
how they want it to go. It goes exactly how they want it to go.
Perfectly.
Couldn't go better.
he could have just came out, held a gun, and then the guy would have been like, "What are you doing? We thought you were the suspect," and he would have been like, "Oh, I am," and I got the drop on him, and then that would have been done. Like, you know, like if he had just an inkling of communication skills, he could have got out of it. But he was like, "I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory." I mean, wild, but
the cops are literally like, "We're here to help you." Like, put the gun down.
we're here to help you. And he's like, "I'm not going to jail."
Fuck you. I definitely want to shoot you.
It also feels like the cops are like, "Hey, we haven't been watching this movie. Can someone give us a quick
Fill us
run
in.
of plot points?
We don't
It's
care
a
about
little-
Tyrese.
Having a hard time tracking the major events that have passed in the last couple hours."
I mean,
man.
I guess the idea is that he thought he was going to die no matter what, because
Right.
if they think that he killed Terrence Howard, who is also a cop, you know, cops come after cop killers pretty hard. And who knows what they would do. So, but I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a stretch, but you know, you buy it. At that point in the movie, you buy it.
I prefer the Andre plan. I like the idea of just like, you know, like, no, I'm a pro-union guy. I take care of my workers.
Honestly, the Andre plan was the only plan they need. I mean, I don't even know why they needed to call because did he call the cops? They called the cops.
Right.
It's true.
Right? Sofia was a part of the plan, right? Like,
Yes.
she's
Yes.
the one who told.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where
she goes to the cops and says, "This guy, like, they're gonna kill a cop at here." And so the cops are
Right.
going there to ostensibly rescue Josh Charles. It's not like she went to the cops and said, "You got to get Josh Charles." And they just they do such a great job. Just it's
it was one of those things where you kind of like, why wasn't it just The Wire? Like, why did you have
Right.
to do this switcheroo?
Get his confession.
It could have just been that, and everyone would have been okay with it. But it was like, no, that's what people expect. Let's have them be even smarter. They'll say it's a wire, but it wasn't even a wire, you know, because they weren't able to do that. And you're like, oh, okay.
That's where the movie frustrates me a little bit. And it's just because, like, Singleton directs this well. You have such a capable cast. It's such an engagingly simple premise. It's such a, like, pleasantly unpretentious movie that knows exactly what it's doing. And I just kind of wish there was, like, 10% less incomprehensible, overthought plot mechanics and 10% more just kind of like character investment. Like, I literally just feel like I want 10 minutes distributed across the movie of them being brothers beyond what there is in the film.
Right. That's fair.
And instead there's like insane shootout scenes, and then Terrence Howard shows up and is like, "Yeah, this is no problem. I can cover this. You know, like, it's fine. It's like, no one's gonna ask you any questions about this. It's no big deal."
Yeah, they probably could have had one less, you know, interrogation, four brothers interrogation of somebody. They had maybe
Right.
4.
There are scenes that are raw though, like that scene where Wahlberg interrogates the guy and then doesn't shoot him, and the guy says, "Thank God," and Wahlberg's like, "Thank Victor Sweet," and shoots him. Where it's like, that's nasty, but I kind of like how brutal it is. Like, this is not a totally easy to root for hero, right?
No, and there's the Sofia Vergara washing machine sex scene, which is once again just like specific choices are being made here. This movie has.
I mean, that was for the teenage boys.
Sure.
They put that in there for the teenage boys.
Could you just imagine, like, going on to a time traveler going back to the set of Four Brothers in 2004 and go like, which person in this cast do you think is going to become like a mogul in 15 years?
Right.
Sofia Vergara is always on those lists of the highest earning stars in Hollywood, where you're like, she makes $50 million a year selling like coconut water or whatever.
Yeah, she just has she is America's most beloved shopping figure, right?
Yeah.
You know, like she does like Kmart, she does Pepsi, she does Head and Shoulders. She's got like all the, products.
She's married to Joe Manganiello.
That's wild. I don't think I knew that.
Oh yeah, no, she's married to Joe Manganiello. She was married to someone else. They got divorced. Joe Manganiello, I believe, literally was like, she's getting divorced, got in a plane, flew to a set where she was filming, and he's like, I've had a crush on you for a long time. I'm not missing my window.
Please.
I believe that's the story.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And also respect.
Respect.
Yeah. Glad for a very hot couple, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, Nick Loeb. She was engaged to Nick Loeb.
Yes.
It was called off, and
Right.
Manganiello,
Roushed in
yeah, he fucking Nightcrawler teleported to her or whatever.
He
Fucking
bamfed.
yeah, he bamfed. Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
God.
I'm seeing here, these numbers are always like sketchy, but I'm seeing here that her net worth is $180 million.
That's a lot.
That she was making $500,000 per episode for the last couple of seasons of Modern Family.
Right.
She makes $10 million for America's Got Talent. I wasn't even aware that's a thing she does now.
Yeah.
Like, she just does everything.
Yeah, she's kicking ass. I mean, Finola Flanagan, to be clear, is worth $250 million. So she does have
Absolutely.
her beat, right?
But that's because Finola Flanagan invested in the vaccine.
Yeah, Finola Flanagan owns Pfizer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wanted to talk about in Four Brothers the use of gasoline, which it's
lot of
pretty
gas.
willy-nilly.
Early. He's like, yeah, let's do the gasoline thing. What gasoline thing? We pour gasoline all over him, make him think we'll set him on fire.
That's what I'm talking about. Like how many plays they have. Like, oh, let's do that play, and it's like that routine that never works out for us. It's like you do this often.
This reflects so poorly on the mom. This is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Finola Flanagan, it's like you should have maybe stamped out the gasoline antics. You know what I
The
mean?
Barry Shabaka Henley scene is bananas.
Here's the thing. They're villains with the heart of gold.
They do have hearts of gold.
Sure, and they look like congressmen compared to what they could have been.
And they're like congressmen compared to what they could have been. They could have been Victor
They
Sweet.
could have been Victor Sweet.
I guess you're right. You would have just had 4 Victor Sweets on your hand. Is that the idea? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I guess she's probably thinking like, look, Andre Benjamin, that guy worked out. Yeah, Garrett Hedlund, he's a sweetie. Tyrese is in the army. Wahlberg's the one where I fucked up. Wahlberg is he's the real chaos agent.
Yeah.
He's the one with the gasoline.
Right, he's not even like a successful criminal. And let's also say, I mean, let's acknowledge she like fostered a lot of kids successfully,
Right.
who then went off to other
these were
families.
the four that she actually kept because
Right.
they were nobody.
They were
wanted
the
them.
complete fuck ups. Yeah,
That's how you would do a sequel. You would add in some brothers who are, I guess, straight-laced brothers.
that's a
I
good
don't
point.
know.
Right, you add on Vincent Cassel and Eddie Izzard.
Yeah, you had Catherine Zeta-Jones. You
yeah.
could do 4 sisters. You could do kind of a side sequel.
Wait a second, David.
What,
Hold
Ben?
on a second.
What, Ben? What, Ben?
4 sisters?
They'd laugh. I know. I'm pitching it. I'm like, look, I know you're going to laugh me out of your office. Please, please, please. Let me just get through this pitch. Okay, sisters. The guy's like, David, I don't know. And I'm like, 4 sisters. And he's like, what are you talking about, 4 sisters? I have to take this to the boss?
I just imagine though that these fucking like executives, junior executives at these studios are like going through filing cabinets, looking at every title they own and going like, is there a gender flipped version of that? Is there a version where I can literally just change 2 words in the title and now you know it's about women?
I mean, what men want.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm just surprised almost they haven't been like, it's 4 sisters. I don't know who gives a shit.
I think this movie is fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fine.
At the end, we've talked around it, but they pay Victor Sweet's cronies to dump him in ice because he sucks and nobody likes him.
Yeah.
He sucks, and he's been disrespecting. He made some of them eat off the floor.
Yeah.
He put them in the dog car. He's threatening to have sex with their wives.
It's responsible union members.
And that pasta looked good. And there's a
did look
union
good.
bond
Yeah.
too.
But here's the thing. Who's going to do it, right?
And that's what they say.
Who's going to step up to the plate? And then who shows up but the lone man walking out of the fucking beyond,
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. How did he get there? What did
He was waiting in the horizon, man. He knew the exact place he had to be.
Yeah.
So that the snowfall would cover him. And then he timed it perfectly where he was like, okay, I think now is the time. I feel like right now is the time where Victor Sweet is wondering who's going to kill me. And he walks perfectly out. And then he's like, there he is.
Wahlberg's just standing out there in the cold.
Hey, man.
Chiwetel takes 2 steps to the left. He has to take 2 steps to the right, so he's still obscured. Like, he has to keep on adjusting vantage points.
Chiwetel kills that scene. To be clear. He is
really
so
does.
good.
So good.
I like the way you do business. Oh, who's going to... Oh, you going to do it? Yeah.
All that stuff. All his, like, sort of vamping.
And they drop him in the ice.
They do. They sure do.
Look, next week we will talk about Abduction, which neither of us have seen, David, but by all accounts
that's a tough one.
Right. By all accounts, that's the one where he his voice as a director becomes anonymous, right?
Right.
But,
it's just not a winner on any front. Right. No one really sticks up for Abduction.
But his 3 big, kind of Hollywood action movies that he made, Too Fast, Shaft, and Four Brothers, I do think are interesting. I know so much of our podcast has become like the fucking both of us being Eli Wallach, going back in my day, they used to do things this way in the industry, right? But I think watching these 3 movies underlines a key difference in how the industry works now, where it's like, if you are a director who makes your small personal dramas, your indie films, whatever, and you get the call to step up and get to make a bigger kind of movie star driven blockbuster, the machinery is so big now, the stakes are so high, the budgets are so high that it is very hard to work as much personality and individualism as I think Singleton does in these 3 movies. For their failings, they feel of a piece with his earlier films. You see the things that he's bringing to them. Not just that he was like a very skilled craftsman. These films are very well shot and constructed. He's good with actors, but you have like his interests on display there. You have his personality. You get his sense of humor. As Bilga pointed out, how much his movies are about like male rage, right? Like men dealing with anger they don't know how to place. And, if you get hired from doing Boys in the Hood to getting to make a $200 million superhero movie, you get kind of sucked up in the machinery. We've seen it. I mean, very few people come out with movies at that size that still feel individualistic, rather than movies like that where you go, oh, there are like 2 or 3 scenes where I see their thing. But a lot of it was directed in previs by a board, or it was taken away from them in the edit, and it's not really what they wanted to make. And this is sort of like, this career turn for him is representative of a point where you could go big and still kind of retain control of your filmography. It still felt like your work, and it's like, I feel like you were watching a lot of shitty superhero movies in the early days of the pandemic, David, like texting me about it and being like, it's weird that this movie feels quaint now. Like, and you said that to me about
like the first X-Men or whatever.
Right, Green Lantern. I was like, you've gone too far. You can't say that Green Lantern feels quaint.
Yeah.
But it is true. There is something I miss about standalone superhero movies now, where you just imagine John Singleton in 2004, 2005, 2006, at this time. I mean, I really think probably him signing the Paramount deal is what killed Luke Cage, is now Sony has Luke Cage and he's committed to a different studio. But you imagine him doing a Luke Cage movie with Sony in 2004, 2005 that probably would have cost like $40 or $50 million. And you're like, that could have really been an interesting movie.
It would have been pretty good, probably. It would have been flawed, but it would have been beginning, middle, and end, as you're saying. It would not have been, setting up a bunch of, it would have been like, yeah, here's this guy. You don't know anything about him. You're going to meet him. You're going to meet all his friends. You're going to meet the villain. He's going to fight the villain. He's going to win. And then someone's going to kiss. And it's just like, they just don't,
It wouldn't have been 2 Netflix seasons where 4 hours of story are stretched out to literally 20 hours. It wouldn't be so what will happen if Feige reboots Luke Cage in some way and it becomes way too high stakes, Especially because Luke Cage's whole thing was like, this is the street level guy. This is the guy who doesn't get involved in the big cosmic Marvel shit, who's looking out for people on the corner and shit. I wish that movie existed, but I also wish that movies like that, period, still could exist.
We'll play the box office game. Bray, is there anything left you want to say about those four brothers?
All for it.
Those crazy
All
brothers.
Or anyone. You can pick one.
No, I mean it's a fun movie for what it is, and like I said, like if you don't like action movies, you probably won't like this one, and you have to, sit, of course, with any movie that's made honestly more than 5 years ago. It's like you have to sit through some stuff that you're like, ooh, okay, but like it's still, it's I don't know. There's something about that definitely works, and I enjoyed rewatching it. I enjoyed it when it came out. I watched it a few times. I think it was just like, oh, this is a cool action movie that just kind of does its thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
To me, it was like it proved John Singleton can do, like, it was like he doesn't need to just write something personal about race. You know what I mean? Like he can do just like this kind of movie, and he would have been great at it. Like it would have been interesting to see him have more flexibility.
He could have done 10 more of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally could have done 10 more of these.
Now I'm trying to find it, but there was some interview with him where he just said, like, I love Westerns. That's what I grew up watching. This was like me making a Western.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I will say, though, this box office for August 12, 2005, this box office is pretty cursed.
Wow.
And it is pretty indicative of how creatively bankrupt Hollywood was then. And like obviously Hollywood is creatively bankrupt in a different way now, where it's just tied to IP that it's just trying to like, gin up and keep alive and tie into other stuff. But like this is not a great box office. Now, I like some of the movies in this box. I'm not saying like they're all bad movies, but it is kind of like, ooh, you can sort of, that anyway, look, number one is Four Brothers. Okay. $21 million.
It was a
We
hit.
had no problem with that.
Yeah.
It was a solid hit. Yeah, to give you the rundown, it made 74 domestic, about 90 worldwide. Not an overseas player.
I will say in the Shane Salerno eulogy I've talked about that you can read on Deadline, he points out that Singleton was very proud. Like it was a real running point of pride for him that almost every one of his movies opened at number one.
That makes sense. And when he enters Hollywood, there's really so few black directors.
Right.
There's a little more by this time, but not many. And I'm sure, that really mattered to him. Like, I can open a movie. Like, I can make you a movie that'll perform and, make your money back.
Yeah.
And I bet it would have done better overseas if they had pushed it more, because this is still at a time where they like black directors, black actors
like,
in
forget
movies.
it.
They were like,
They just
oh,
didn't
no,
even
no,
try. Right.
They didn't even
Don't
try.
bother. Right.
Truly, yeah. Wild.
Like it came out in Britain, but I can't have to imagine it did not come out in a lot of places. All right, number two.
Oh, how do you know that it came out in Britain?
Yeah, wait a second, David. Let's explore that for a moment.
Okay. All right. Well,
No, it was just a weird thing to just rattle off. How did you know that it came out in Britain?
I grew up in Britain.
What?
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. I want to say number two at the box office, for all my saying that this is a cursed box office, is a horror movie that I think is pretty good. It's new this week. I feel like it was, pretty much ignored at the time.
Is it the Skeleton Key?
It's the Skeleton
This
Key.
is a movie that I also really like, with an overqualified cast. Yeah.
It is an overqualified because it's got Gina Rollins and
Right.
Peter Sarsgaard and John Hurt. Like it's not a masterpiece, but it's
good.
Good, not cheap. Like it doesn't do dumb jumps. Like it's a fun, creepy horror movie. It's got sort of an angle. It's got a pretty good, twist at the end. It's solid. It's just a side. Kate Hudson, she's fine. She's fine.
Ian Softly, who did Backbeat and also a couple of the worst movies ever made.
Did K-Pax.
Wings of the Dove, yeah.
Inkheart. So Skeleton Key. So all right. So those two, it's like, okay, Hollywood's got some stuff on offer for you if you want to come to the multiplex this weekend. Number three, down from one last week. It's a reboot, it's a cinematic version of a television show. The extent to which you would not do this movie now, it's powerful.
Dukes of Hazzard.
It's the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Johnny
I remember
Knoxville, Sean William Scott, Jessica Simpson.
Jessica Simpson. in her Daisy Dukes.
Burt Reynolds is Boss Hogg. Right?
Yes, and
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson is Uncle Jesse, and I just can't remember. Does the Confederate flag get the with or the and above the title? On that one?
I think it got both, unfortunately.
Because it's in a lot of that. Movie.
I never saw that movie, but truly, this is how dumb teenage boys are. The only reason I was going to see that was because Jessica Simpson was in Daisy Dukes.
Oh yeah,
it was being sold pretty much on that, right?
Yeah.
It was despised when it came out. It made some money, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it was a decent, but I remember there being actual like vitriol from all quarters.
Yes.
Like critics hated it, and audiences were like, "Well, it isn't for the critics," and they went to see it, and they were like, "Wait, I hate it too." I'm also upset.
Number four is a comedy, a huge hit comedy this summer, a better movie than The Dukes of Hazzard, but
it's Wedding Crashers.
Not a movie that aged amazingly.
I don't like that movie. I do not think that movie has aged well.
I did like it when I saw it. I definitely liked it when I saw it.
Hide your bridesmaids, guys.
Hide
The Wedding Crashers are coming.
Yeah, not since Belushi and Aykroyd.
Now I will say, as much as that movie is not aged well, feels like a movie that someone is going to try and remake.
Oh yeah,
someone is going to be like, Wedding Crashers. People know what that is. We got to figure out a new angle on this. Woke Wedding Crashers. We'll figure it out. Yes.
Yeah. Here's the angle. They're women. I guarantee you, they're already developing it.
Griffin, stop it. My Four Sisters is my thing. Okay.
Wait a minute, Griffin. I'll do you one better. Not only are they women, they're lesbians.
Oh,
they're gay. Oh no.
Oh my God.
Oh, they're crashing gay weddings.
Oh my
maybe?
Crashing
I
gay
don't know.
weddings.
Topical.
Hollywood's like,
topical.
Is this Hollywood with like the butterfly meme?
Yeah.
Is this woke? Is this inclusion?
But what if it's the women who hate other women?
Yeah.
Oh God.
And only use them for sex? Is
now
that
number
woke?
five? Number five to round out, and I forgot that August was a real dumping ground for like shitty comedies. You've got a comedy sequel.
A comedy sequel
from a lesser comedy star, I will say.
A lesser comedy star. Is it Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo?
Oh my God.
It's all I had to give you.
Yep.
What
all
a
I had
pull.
to give you.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
I was thinking
found
like,
New this week. Not opening big.
not opening well.
At number 5.
What were you gonna guess, Bray?
no, this is not a lesser comedy star, but I was thinking did Big Mama's House 2 come out this year?
Sure. Right.
I was just
worse
thinking,
than that.
Right. What's a comedy that had enough of a following to support a sequel, but not enough of a following to release any time other than the end of August? That was the math for me.
That was great. No, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Is that the movie where Ebert and Rob Schneider kind of got in like a fight about it? Like, because Ebert said it was a piece of shit, and Schneider was like,
Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo,
Yeah. Ebert was throwing hands for a couple of years there in the 2000s because he had his Vincent Gallo dust up too.
He did. He got salty at the end there. We love it.
Yeah.
All right. So some other movies. You got the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory remake.
Mm-hmm.
You have Sky High, Griffin's favorite.
My beloved, yes. A movie that should have been a franchise, but also retains a purity because Disney didn't run it to the ground.
Right. You've got Must Love Dogs.
You must. One must.
It's not the John Dahl war movie, The Great Raid. Exactly. It's just not the Dukes of Hazzard, Wedding Crashers, Deuce Bigalow trio. It just reminds me of that kind of nasty, sweaty mid-2000s Hollywood approach to comedy, especially. Like, they had a hand in its defeat, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Well, also, I think the next weekend, 40-Year-Old Virgin comes out. Am I right about that?
Well, let's find out.
I think it's literally the next weekend.
Yes, Griffin.
How? Thank you.
How do you know that, you sick bastard?
I am dead inside, other than the box office data that rattles around my brain. But that changes everything. That's the answer right there.
Right, but still had to play that. It was like a Trojan horse because it was still coming in like, hey, comedies are for teenage boys who want to see tits and
Yes.
you know,
unrated and out of
Absolutely.
control DVD release, like selling the sex front and center. And then when people responded so well to like the emotionality of that movie, then that is just like great. Now you find new cheap stars, you let them improvise as low premise concept as possible, and that's the next 10 years of comedy. Yeah, the sort of like boys will be boys kind of grody cynicism goes away and is replaced by like, but sometimes boys are kind of nice, right?
Right.
I have to let you know that Tessa has been texting me being like, how are you guys still talking about this movie?
Blank check, baby.
And I
Blank check,
said,
baby.
that's blank
I
check.
mean, we are done.
Yeah,
That's blank check for you. Yeah.
that's blank check.
Next
baby.
week, also Red Eye. I just want to point out Red Eye.
Red Eye, good movie.
Ooh, Red Eye.
That's one that's probably only aged better too. That's one of those truly they don't make it like this anymore.
They don't even try to make movies like that.
No, that is absolutely a movie that would go to Netflix now.
I mean, to be fair, so do big budget movies.
Yeah, to be fair, right. So does
so does every movie.
so does everything.
Goes to
Yeah.
fucking Netflix. Okay, we're done. 4 brothers.
Braylock, you're the
No, but
best.
take 4 sisters. That's mine.
That's David's, and I have a wedding crasher S's. I don't know how you make that title clear. Lady Wedding Crashers, Miss Wedding Crashers.
I don't think you should try. I think you should move on.
No, I'm gonna make this work.
Okay.
Braylock, sorry it had been so long. We will have you on again sooner. It's always a pleasure and a privilege.
Not like 3 years again.
Yeah.
What
no.
was it? I don't know.
But everyone should listen to Black Man Can't Jump in Hollywood. You guys have done episodes on most of these Singleton movies as well, right? A good handful of them.
Oh, yeah, that's another. To be fair, that's another reason why I didn't pick.
Yes, sure.
But yes, we've done like Higher Learning and Poetic Justice, and obviously Boys in the Hood.
Yeah. And everyone should watch Astronomy Club. Speaking of things that are on Netflix.
Netflix, yeah. No, we love Netflix.
We love them. We love them. And thank you all for listening to this show. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media, Alex Barron, AJ McKeon for editing help. Thank you to Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song.
Research on this episode done by JJ Bursch and Nick Loriano.
Go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit, and go to patreon.com/blank check for blank check special features, where our Taylor Lautner summer is about to crest as we finish the Twilight franchise over on that feed with those commentaries, and we tackle Abduction next week on this feed. One of the more depressing final films we've ever had to cover on
One
this show.
shot.
I mean, look, maybe it'll surprise me, but I don't think so.
I would love to love it,
Right.
and
Exactly.
I fear. So that's all the stuff. I don't think I forgot things that I'm supposed to say at the end, which I have been recently doing. And as always, Garrett Hedlund is a cockologist.